Chapter 581-processing. Now, suddenly I don't want to kill you anymore. The corners of Li Ang's mouth were slightly raised, and he said slowly. Thank you, sir, for your life. Johnny's eyes flashed, and he said excitedly. Finished talking. He knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing, looking very excited. At the same time, his so-called dignity has been completely trampled on. Everyone looked at the picture of Johnny kowtowing to Li Ang. Silence. The group of stupid commoners who originally worshipped Johnny stared blankly at this scene. In their eyes, the Lord Li Ang actually kowtowed to others. This is completely different from what they imagined. It must be that damn boy who threatened Lord Li Ang. He must not be spared. He must be killed. He even forced Lord Li Ang to kneel. It's unforgivable. It's too hateful. This kind of person, we have to get rid of it. It's a big disaster for this world. Lord Li Ang, stand up. We don't need to be afraid of this damn guy. Brothers, we are all ready to kill that damn guy. Quote. The crowd was full of anger and shouted. The voice was loud, resounding through the sky. This loud voice was circulating throughout the venue. And in the corner of the auditorium, 280 group of pirates were still looking at this dramatic scene and felt a bit interesting. These stupid guys, they don't know that the person who was scolded by them is the real Li Ang. What would their expressions look like if they were told? It's impossible. They have been completely brainwashed. Even if someone told them that the person they scolded was the real Li Ang, guess what, would they believe it? Of course not. That's why I said that the ability of this fake is quite obvious. He can brainwash so many people, which is very scary. Quote. They also held a cautious mood toward Johnny. Can make so many people worship themselves so much. This in itself is an indescribable talent. What a pity. This guy, without eyes, actually chose to pretend to be the name of the monster Li Ang. All right, now, the monster Li Ang is here. How will that matter be handled? Just imagine and they will come to a conclusion. According to Li Ang, this monster's temperament, it is basically impossible for this fake to survive today. All I can say is, he deserves it. A pirate sneered and said. If it wasn't for this imposter doing something he shouldn't have done, with his ability, he wouldn't have gotten to this point. But in the same way, if he didn't pretend to be Li Ang, it was unknown whether he could expand his power to this point. But the worst result is not to be killed. And now, Li Ang is here. If he wants to die, it will be difficult. Whoever comes can't save him, even if the king, Laozi, can't help Li Ang. There is only one possibility that can save his life. That is, Li Ang does not want to kill. However, this possibility is very small and basically does not exist. Look, well, don't talk anymore. The rest of the pirates spoke up. They stared at the front with their eyes focused, without blinking, with a 12-point energy. It was the first time they had seen a terrifying monster like Li Ang with their own eyes. In the past, it was all seen from newspapers and video bugs. Now that they really saw my appearance, they were not only afraid, but also deeply curious. Chapter 581-processing. Now that they really saw my appearance, they were not only afraid, but also deeply curious. It was this monster who suppressed the Navy headquarters by himself. How can one person be so strong? This is completely incomprehensible to them. People at their level would certainly not be able to understand the feelings of the person standing above them. Not far away. Hancock, Tautu, Tina, and Robin stood together. Maimu stared straight ahead, and when they saw the kneeling fake, they felt relieved. This imposter finally understands his own situation. Now, seeing him kneeling makes me feel good. CDED. Hancock's delicate face hidden in the mask also showed a smile, said. The imposter's kneeling directly dispelled the original anger in her heart. Robin and the other three also agreed, and the anger in their hearts slowly disappeared. In their eyes, this so-called fake was already regarded as a dead person. As long as Liang wants to kill someone, he can never escape. Unless, incognito, hidden in the mountains and forests, and never go out to meet the world again. Otherwise, if any certain news comes out, it will attract Liang's terrifying attack. No one can escape Liang's attack. Whether it is a navy or a pirate, there is no such person. You deserve it. Robin's pink lips parted slightly and said coldly. That's right, even if you don't look at your own abilities, you dare to pretend to be someone else's name at will. Such a person will die when he dies. Tina nodded and said slowly. At this time, in everyone's sight, Liang looked at Johnny, who was kneeling and kowtowing in front of him, smiled lightly, and said, I just said that I didn't want to kill you. I didn't say that I wanted to let you go. Why are you so happy? Huh. Johnny's excitement stopped abruptly. His throat was dry. He raised his head and looked at Liang. He couldn't help but ask tentatively, Lord Liang, what do you want me to do? Can I make up for my past mistakes? I sincerely repent. As long as he doesn't kill him, he can breathe a sigh of relief. If you don't die, anything is possible. So, as long as Liang doesn't kill him today, he will be satisfied. If he leaves alive, he must leave this ghost place. This place is too dangerous. Well, you can do what I say next. Liang said with a calm face and glittering eyes. Well, you say, I will do it. Johnny nodded quickly and said with a hopeful expression. This is his only chance to survive, how dare he relax? If Liang is not satisfied, then his nickname will be worrying. Therefore, in any case, he must satisfy Liang. In his heart, he has already made a plan, and he must follow Liang's words and execute it completely. Get up first. Liang spoke slowly, glanced at Johnny, who was still kneeling, and said. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Johnny looked excited. Lord Liang actually made himself stand up. This made him feel even more relieved. This time, he finally didn't have to die. However, at this moment, Liang said with a smile, I want you to admit the fact that you were pretending to be me. How about you? Ah! Johnny's face instantly stiffened, and in his eyes, there was stunned expression. Chapter 582 _ on the horror of brainwashing. Lord Liang, you, who are you? Johnny's lips trembled, looking at Liang in horror, and said in a low voice. Admits this matter personally. It took him several years to plan this, and it has been well run. Who doesn't know his name on the whole island? Although, the name was stolen by him. But his power has spread all over the island, and no one can disobey his orders. On this island, he alone is a piece of sky. He represents the Earth Emperor here, the absolute overlord. However, all of this was brought about because he falsely used Liang's name. If now, let him admit that he himself is an imposter, what will these masses think? Will he kill himself on the spot? At this moment, Liang's condition made him embarrassed. Do as I say. Liang looked calm, looked at the angry crowd in front of him, and said. He really wanted to see, if Johnny admitted it himself, how would these people react? This is not very good, Mr. Liang, I have already admitted to you that I am a fake. Johnny took a deep breath and said tentatively. Did you not hear what I said? Liang said indifferently, you want me to say it a second time? No, I heard it clearly. Johnny was terrified and answered quickly. However, it is still a little difficult for him to admit now that he is a fake. In particular, there are so many people in front of him. If he admits it, what kind of things these people will do is unpredictable. Moreover, the biggest possibility is that all his efforts will be in vain. The power that had been in business for so many years collapsed in an instant. Even, he did it himself. Do you really want to say it? Lord Liang, leave me a way to live. Johnny swallowed and begged. You pretended to be me and deceived these people. Don't you even have an explanation? Could it be that you can continue to pretend to be? Your heart is really big. I'll give you two choices now. The first, admit it to them. The second, I'll kill you now. Which one do you choose? Li Ang held the handle of the first-generation goosh with one hand and slowly raised it without any emotion, said. I choose the second one. Johnny looked at Li Ang, and said with a sense of fear that could not be concealed in his eyes. First, there is still a chance to live. And the second, he would die here on the spot. He doesn't pray for anything now, it's up to someone else to save him. Because the person standing beside him is the real Li Ang. In this world, there may be people on a par with Li Ang, but he doesn't think that such people will come to save this little guy. Therefore, if he does not agree, his results can be imagined. There is no other way but to die. These two options, he can only choose the first. Then please start your conversation. Li Ang continued with a smile on his face. Good. Johnny gritted his teeth and looked at the angry crowd ahead. He knew that the anger of these masses was not directed at him, but at Li Ang behind him. But even so, he still couldn't hide the coldness in his heart. When the truth of the matter is revealed, what will be the consequences for him? This is something he will never understand. Chapter 582 _ on the horror of brainwashing. This is something he will never understand. Everything is an unknown. Present. Johnny took a deep breath and shouted, Everyone, be quiet, I want to announce something. This matter, it may have a huge impact on you. However, I still hope you can listen quietly. The whole place fell into a silent atmosphere. Everyone looked at Johnny in front of him without blinking. Including the group of pirates, did not speak. The entire venue was terribly quiet. In the sight of everyone, Johnny's mood was also very uneasy. He forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart, his lips trembled, and he couldn't speak for a long time. Finally, under the pressure of Li Ang, he still chose to speak and shouted, Everyone, I'm sorry, I deceived you. Actually, I'm not Li Ang, I'm just a fake. I just want to pretend to be Li Ang, to deceive your feelings, so that you can absolutely obey my orders. I don't know how to play the piano at all. I just want to use Li Ang's name to cultivate my own power. At the same time, I also cultivate your faith. Katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. I deceived you, I'm so sorry. After a few words, everyone in the audience fell silent. Everyone's eyes, staring at Johnny, fixed their eyes on him. After Johnny finished speaking, he was paralyzed and sat on the ground. Not far away. A group of pirates looked at Johnny, and the words of the other party were still lingering in their ears. There was a smile on their faces, and they laughed. This guy is finally going to tell the truth. It will definitely be hard for him. After all, after working so hard for so long, it all vanished in an instant. Can he not be angry? Not necessarily. Look carefully, the eyes of these stupid civilians. A pirate's pupils shrank and said solemnly. His words just fell. The crowd was instantly clamoring and boiling, looking forward with anger on their faces. No, it's not true. A young man was very angry and shouted, Lord Li Ang, it must be the damn guy who threatened you, that's why you said those words. That's right, the damned guy must have threatened. Otherwise, how could Master Li Ang say these words? Damn it. I have to kill him. If I don't kill him, I swear I'm not a human being. To even threaten Lord Li Ang to say such a thing, this guy has a strange mind. Quote. There was a lot of talk, but no one was willing to believe what Johnny said. Everyone thinks that Johnny said this after being forced by Li Angwei. Visible. They are already mortally ill. This picture, presented in Johnny's sight, made his eyes widen. Even he himself did not expect it. Have you done your own brainwashing so thoroughly? What a bunch of stupid residents. Li Ang smiled, as if the scene in front of him was in his prediction. This is terrifying brainwashing. No matter what you say, you can't save these brainless people. In this case, Li Ang doesn't need to think too much. I will try my best to see if I can subvert the beliefs that these residents have identified. If not, Li Ang will not bother. Chapter 583-Deep-Rooted. Hancock, Robin and others also stared blankly at the anger of this group of people, and some were powerless to complain. Are these guys really brainless, or are they really brainwashed? If it was the real Li Ang, would he really be coerced? This is of course impossible. The rumored Li Ang, who can suppress the terrorist existence of the Navy headquarters alone, will be threatened by others. This is definitely a joke. But now, the imposter was not only coerced, but also personally admitted that he was an imposter. However, those people still couldn't believe it. Even, they have found their own reasons to comfort themselves, to reverse the truth of the matter, and force themselves to believe that the fake is the real thing. These people, there is no cure. Robin's pink lips parted slightly, and he whispered. Her eyes flickered, looking at the crowd in front of her, she felt a wave of helplessness. Yeah, already, they can't change their minds anymore. Since 017 is the case, why should they consider their minds again? You can do it directly. Kill the fakes, whether these people believe it or not, they can only accept it. Or, do they have to fight to see the truth? Tautu and Tina also had frosty faces as they spoke slowly. This group of people really made them feel very angry. It is too ironic to actually take the fake goods as real. The other side. A group of pirates stared blankly at the crowd in front of them. They still underestimated the brainwashing level of the fake. The group of people in front of them are more than just brainwashed. It's like worshipping the imposter like a god. Even if the fakes really tell the truth, they can't save the thinking of these people. So these stupid people. A pirate sneered and shook his head. Someone sold it and helped others to count the money, foolishly trusting a counterfeit. Now, the counterfeit has already admitted it, but it is still the same. This is really true, how can I say it? I can't understand what is going on in their heads. I feel that they have seriously lowered the level of IQ per capita in the world. Quote. Even their group of pirates can't see it. Especially seeing the words and demeanor that these residents even explained to this fake, they felt a sense of ridicule in their hearts, which could not be contained. These guys are so funny. I understand that the counterfeit goods in front of me are also turned into genuine characters by their abrupt quibbles. What's the use of such a person? Let's see, Li Ang, this monster, will you be angry? The rest of the pirates spoke in a low voice. Positioned directly in front. Johnny felt the trust of the residents in front of him, and his heart was overjoyed, but his face was still calm. He turned his head, looked at Li Ang, and asked weakly, Lord Li Ang, they don't even believe what I said. You said, what should I do next? It's easy to handle, then tell them about it. Li Ang's deeds will let them know more about Li Ang. Then compare it with you, and the result will appear. Li Ang smiled lightly. This. Johnny's face changed slightly, but he had to agree. By the way, here's a newspaper for you to refer to. Li Ang handed over an untouched, unprocessed newspaper to Johnny. After seeing Li Ang's portrait in the newspaper, Johnny's face became heavier. Come on, use your best skills. I believe that you have the ability. Since you have made them trust you so much, you can also make them trust you again. By contrast, it's obviously easier to get them to distrust you than to get them to trust you. What do you think? Li Ang said slowly with a smile on his face. Well, all right. Johnny took a deep breath and nodded. Chapter 583-Deep-Rooted. Johnny took a deep breath and nodded. Holding the newspaper, He looked at the crowd in front of him and shouted, "Be quiet. I'll show you the real proof that I'm a counterfeiter now." Silence. The whole place was quiet again. A group of residents still looked at Johnny in front of him and did not speak. Li Ang, who is famous in the sea, once destroyed the naval branch by himself. In the end, he fought with the two generals of the naval headquarters, plus the warring States Marshal and the legendary Lieutenant General Garp. In the end, the Navy headquarters was defeated and compromised with Li Ang alone. In addition, Li Ang once again used the sound of the piano to induce the gathering of the Sea Kings in Marin Fando, and even communicated with the Sea Kings. Such an ability can be described as the Son of Heaven. Speaking of which, there was also a somewhat complicated look on Johnny's face. Li Ang's deeds were amazing, and he couldn't help but be jealous of Li Ang's talent. If Li Ang's talent gave him a share, he wouldn't pretend to be someone else like this, but really made himself a top powerhouse. It's a pity that he doesn't have such talent. He can only rely on his own head to build a huge force to gain a foothold on the sea. But if I didn't expect it, in the end, it led to the disaster. Everyone, if I were Li Ang and I was held hostage, would I be afraid? If I were Li Ang, no one else could hold me hostage at all. So, I'm really an imposter. I deceived all of you, and I made you all worship me as an imposter. I made you all mistake me for the real Li Ang. I am a sinner. Johnny resisted the throbbing in his heart and continued to speak under Li Ang's terrifying power. His mood has fallen to the bottom. Once all these things are said, will these people choose to believe in themselves? With Johnny's words, there was a sensation in the crowd, and everyone looked at each other, full of astonishment. Of course, there are also many people who have doubted Johnny's identity. That's right, according to Johnny. With Li Ang's terrifying strength, it is impossible for him to be held hostage. But now, what's the situation? However, there are still most people who are dubious. They were still willing to believe that Johnny was forced by Li Ang to say this. "No, Mr. Li Ang, you don't need to be nervous, we'll save you now." "Yes, the guy who threatened you, we will kill him, you don't need to worry." "Lord Li Ang, don't say it anymore, you are persecuted, we all know that." Quote. The crowd roared again. They 2.5 focused on Li Ang with their angry eyes. In their eyes, Li Ang is the culprit of everything. Even if Johnny's analysis was so thorough, they couldn't change their beliefs. It can only be said that their heads really cannot be reversed. "Lord Li Ang, I tried my best, it's not my problem." Johnny looked at Li Ang with a terrified face and trembled. "I know." Li Ang nodded, looked at the group of angry people in front, shook his head and said lightly, "These people have been completely brainwashed by you. Your kung fu is still very strong. Being able to make this group of people's belief in you ingrained and unshakable. Such an ability can be said to be quite remarkable. But unfortunately, why do you want to provoke it?" Finished talking, Li Ang held the first generation of ghosts and walked towards Johnny's direction. Chapter 584 Beg for Mercy. "Lord Li Ang, what are you doing?" Johnny stepped back half a step in panic, looking at Li Ang. His eyes widened, his expression was full of fear, his whole body was shaking, and he couldn't hide his fear. "I can't change the minds of these people. So, I can only aggrieve you and let you change them. This time, I will make them memorable." Li Ang waved his hand and said slowly. "Lord Li Ang, you agreed to kill me." Johnny's lips trembled in fear. "Yes." Li Ang nodded and said with a smile, "However, you didn't complete the task according to my words. Therefore, I naturally don't need to abide by the previous words." No, you can't do this." Johnny was terrified, paralyzed on the ground, unable to move. He felt that a vaguely terrifying aura filled his body, making him unable to stand up and unable to move. He could only watch helplessly. Li Ang, who was in front of him, was approaching him step by step, and his fear was infinitely magnified. And he himself was completely incapable of resisting. 23 inches. It's only blame, you've done a lot of evil yourself. You've planted the cause, and you'll experience the fruit you've planted. That's fair, isn't it? Li Ang stood beside Johnny, and the first generation ghost's icy blade reached Johnny's neck. Feeling the coldness, Johnny shivered, his fear infinitely amplified, his eyes staring at Li Ang, bloodshot. He hurriedly said, Lord Li Ang, I can do anything for you. Do you want to rule this island? I can give it to you. Don't kill me, I can bring you greater benefits. Quote. An island. Interest. These, if they can make my heart move, that's fine. It's a pity, I have never felt anything about them. Li Ang waved his hand helplessly, sighed, and said. If these appealed to him, he himself would be satisfied. Because, in this case, he will also have a goal to fight for. Unfortunately, these things did not attract him at all. Because it's so easy to come by. Territory, benefit. These things that he can reach out and touch and can get easily will naturally not be so attractive to him. Simple things are not challenging at all. If there is no challenge, why should Li Ang waste time doing it? Anyway, it's just a very boring thing here. Therefore, Johnny's words did not attract him at all. He couldn't even make him move a little bit. I'm still useful, don't kill me. Johnny's throat was dry, his eyes widened, and he lost his voice. He couldn't think of anything that could attract Li Ang. However, he didn't want to just die here, so he could only do his best to pray for Li Ang to spare his life. As long as he was spared, he wouldn't dare to do this kind of thing again in the future. Lord Li Ang, I dare not, I dare not. Johnny kept kowtowing, panicking. At the same time, the few strong men beside him finally got the chance and slammed towards Li Ang's position. Lord Li Ang, be careful. Damn boy, take your life. You dare to threaten Lord Li Ang, I don't know whether to live or die. Go ahead and cut this kid into 8 pieces. Quote. Several strong men thought they had found a seamless opportunity. They immediately launched a rapid attack on Li Ang. Chapter 584 Beg for Mercy. They immediately launched a rapid attack on Li Ang. Among them, there is actually a devil fruit-capable person, whose whole body is transformed into a cat-like animal, with extremely fast speed, holding 2 daggers, and stabs Li Ang's heart violently. Die. He seemed to see Li Ang's death, his face full of excitement, and he shouted. Stop it. Johnny's eyes widened, his fear grew stronger, and he shouted. The horror level of Li Ang is self-evident. He had no idea of fighting against Li Ang at all, and now, there is still a chance. However, if the people under him do it, there is really no chance. Lord Li Ang, don't worry, I will definitely kill him to keep you safe. The strong man still smiled confidently and said. Heard. Johnny was unable to speak, the corners of his mouth moved slightly, and he said in a trembling voice, You have no idea what kind of terrifying monster you are facing. Isn't he just an ordinary boy? Am I still afraid of him? If he hadn't kidnapped you, Lord Li Ang, I would have killed him long ago. The strong man sneered again and again, full of confidence. Puff. A crisp voice came out. The strong man's smile stopped abruptly, his eyes widened, and he gradually lost his former look. His entire head rolled in the sky, his head was in a different place, blood spurted out, and was thrown on the ground, dyeing the whole ground red. The smell of blood permeates the air, and the strong smell of blood is quite pungent. With a thump sound, the man with the devil fruit was beheaded by Li Ang on the spot. There was no room for resistance, and he couldn't die any longer. His body fell to the ground, and the temperature plummeted. A headless corpse appeared in everyone's sight. A few drops of blood fell on Johnny's face, amplifying his fear infinitely, staring blankly at the headless corpse on the ground, and the whole person was close to the brink of collapse. Li Ang, this is Li Ang. His lips trembled and he muttered to himself. At this time, Li Ang held the first-generation Ghost 877 Che, and on the sharp blade, all the blood gradually merged into the blade and disappeared again. What a sweet little guy. Li Ang looked at the first-generation Goosh and said with a faint smile, but don't worry, the next food is still abundant. The blood here is too much to eat. Buzz. The first generation of ghosts trembled for a while, and clearly felt the excitement of it. Don't worry, there will be. Li Ang held the handle of the knife with one hand, looked at the strong men who attacked, and attacked in an instant. Puff, puff, puff. In an instant. With a thump sound, headless corpses fell to the ground. Fresh blood flowed on the ground, sliding along the trajectory. The bright red blood was quite obvious. Several strong men died in Li Ang's hands. These people who are Johnny's guards still have a lot of strength. However, they chose the wrong opponent. In front of Li Ang, these guys are simply vulnerable. Not to mention them, even if the generals of the navy came, they would have to be beaten by Li Ang. As for these people above the average level, Li Ang can kill thousands of them with a flip of his hand, and it is still the kind that is easy and does not bring any pressure. Dead, all dead. Johnny's eyes were dazed, unable to speak, the whole person seemed to be stupid, slumped on the ground, motionless. Chapter 585-cut. These people died too fast. Before he could react, he had already seen these headless corpses. Li Ang's strength made him feel deep despair. The sense of despair that was completely unstoppable filled his heart. Invincible. He couldn't even see the shadow of Li Ang's hands, so he saw the appearance of Wei's corpse. It can be seen that Li Ang's speed has reached a point beyond his imagination. This is Li Ang, this is the monster that the sea fears. He also thought that it would be okay to pretend to be Li Ang. But now, the consequences are finally here. He even thinks that when his power grows, he can be confident. But now that he looked at it, he realized that all this was just his beautiful fantasy. Li Ang's strength is outrageous. Even if his power is really huge, he still can't escape Li Ang's murderous intention. No, no, Lord Li Ang. Johnny looked at Li Ang, who was walking step by step with a knife in his hand, and cried out in fear. Not far away. Everyone looked at the appearance of this picture. A group of people did not dare to say a word. The death of a person is quite shocking to them. However, seeing that Johnny was about to be killed, their blind admirers naturally couldn't bear the danger of those they admired. Damn it, Lord Li Ang is going to be killed. We must save Lord Li Ang. Yes, if Lord Li Ang dies, who will teach us the piano in the future? No, brothers, go ahead. Quote. A group of ordinary people swooped in Li Ang's direction. Some of them took out their weapons, some were unarmed, and rushed directly to Li Ang's place frantically. Seeing their crazy appearance, even those pirates were a little timid. Too many people. If they were to kill, they would be overwhelmed. However, the enemy these people have to face is Li Ang. Just such a person represents the never-ending force of terror. Can tens of thousands handle it? The answer, of course, is no. They don't think that by relying on the number of people, they can kill a monster like Li Ang. If it is really possible, then the people of this world will not be afraid of the four emperors. Just because of the number of people is useless. Therefore, a strong person can stand at the top of the world by himself, and no one can change such a thing. If Li Ang really wants to start killing people, then no one here can escape. A pirate said with trembling lips and a terrified expression. Here, there are more than 100,000 people. Especially with the people outside, there must be more than 100,000 people. In the scene, there must still be 30,000 people. If Li Ang started the killing spree, today, here, hundreds of thousands of people will die. Such a terrifying number is simply too terrifying. Even if they are pirates who do evil things, when they hear this number, they can't help shuddering. If hundreds of thousands of people die, what changes will it bring to this sea? They cannot predict this. But what they were sure of was that even if Li Ang really killed so many people, he would still be able to roam this sea intact. For one reason. Chapter 585_cut. And GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. For one reason. Li Ang, he is too strong. He was so powerful that the Navy headquarters could not deal with it, so no matter how extreme he did, the Navy headquarters would not dare to act rashly against him. So, these ignorant guys should pray that Li Ang doesn't do anything to them. Otherwise, there will be a river of blood here. A group of pirates panicked and couldn't help themselves. They subconsciously left the battlefield to avoid being affected by the aftermath. Li Ang's terrifying power, even if it is affected by the aftermath, they will still die or be disabled. In the center of the field, Li Ang held the first generation of ghosts and felt the crowds that were constantly attacking around him. His expression remained calm, without any tension. Number of people. For him, no matter how many people there are, it is useless. In this world, it is not by numbers that can stand at the top of the world. However, with absolute power, excellent quality is required to bring about higher status and strength. There are too many people in this sea area. If the number of people can occupy absolute power, then the world government will not dare to be so rampant. It is because the world government controls the cultivation methods that ordinary people cannot control, and in terms of quality, it completely abuses ordinary people. So, they don't worry at all what the consequences will be if a group of ordinary people join forces. At that time, only one general needs to be dispatched, and the forces united by all ordinary people can be swept away. It is completely relaxed and there is no need to worry. In this world, quality is more important than quantity. Therefore, seeing so many people, Li Ang still does not have the slightest worry. Diaresis, get out of Lord Li Ang's side, you bloody bastard. Leave Lord Li Ang's side. Lord Li Ang, we are here to save you. Don't worry, you will be able to get out of trouble soon. Quote. A group of angry crowd shouted excitedly. At the same time, Li Ang looked at Johnny, who was paralyzed on the ground in front of him, smiled lightly, and said, "Did you see it? Your ability is still very powerful. So many people are willing to sacrifice their lives for you. In a way, you are already very talented. It worked. Lord Li Ang, I was wrong, don't kill me," Johnny said hurriedly with a look of fear on his face. "You don't need to beg me, because, as a result, it has already been decided." Li Ang held the first generation goosh, a sharp blade, and disappeared in a flash. No. Johnny's eyes widened, and he only felt a flash of knife light in his eyes, and then he didn't feel any perception. Puff. His whole head flew into the air. Li Hao showed an arc in the air, gradually landed, rolled on the ground, and rolled several times before it stopped. Ahead, eyes wide, and dead. Before dying, he was still full of unwilling emotions, which could not be concealed in his eyes. It was obvious that he was very unwilling to die like this. But under the control of Li Ang's terrifying power, life and death, everything is beyond his control. If Li Ang wants him to die, he must die, and no one can stop him. A smear of conspicuous blood was scattered on the ground, staining the soil red. Plop, sound. A headless corpse in white clothes, dyed with a bright red color, gradually fell to the ground, silent and motionless. Johnny, killed instantly. Li Ang took his life with one knife. With this little strength, you dare to pretend to be your own identity. This made Li Ang burst into laughter, feeling a burst of ridiculousness. Chapter 586_angry crowd. Silence. Everyone was unable to react when they saw the scene of Johnny being killed. Especially those who thought Johnny was Li Ang. They couldn't believe that the Lord Li Ang, in their mind, was actually killed. Johnny's head rolled on the ground, rolling several times. Those dead eyes are really fascinating. And beside his corpse, Li Ang was standing, expressionless, even with a smile. Under his feet were all headless corpses, looking very ferocious and terrifying. The blood of bright red and demonic splattered all over the ground, dyeing the ground red. There was a pungent bloody smell in the air, moving with the wind. The scene became very strange, and there was no sound. Lord Li Ang, dead. A young man's expression was full of shock, his lips trembled, and he stared blankly at Johnny's headless corpse. He couldn't believe what he saw in front of him. The person he admired in his heart, Lord Li Ang, was actually killed. How is this possible? Lord Li Ang, he is immortal. My God, Lord Li Ang was really killed. This damn fellow, he actually dared to kill Lord Li Ang, how dare he? Lord Li Ang, dead, I can't believe it. No, that's not true. Lord Li Ang can suppress the terrifying existence of the High 490 Army Headquarters. How could he be killed so easily? I must avenge Lord Li Ang. Revenge. Quote. The crowd was angry. They stared at Li Ang with bloodshot eyes, and then looked at Johnny's body on the ground, which aroused their anger. Anger was burning, and they approached the area in front of Li Ang step by step. Die. Everyone, their eyes focused on Li Ang, their faces were expressionless, and they said coldly. Their imposing manner is like a rainbow, and the majestic imposing manner spreads out. If a pirate with a little bit of strength, they will really be frightened by their battle. Unfortunately, the person they met was the real Li Ang. Will Li Ang care about this manpower? Even if the number is increased by 100 times, it is not enough to kill him. Still a bunch of stubborn idiots. Li Ang's mouth moved slightly and said lightly. He looked at the menacing crowd in front of him, his face remained the same, and there was no pressure in his heart. On the contrary, seeing the angry crowd, he felt great irony. The heads of these guys, CDAF, are really not ordinary stupid. He didn't even have the ability to judge himself at all, and was completely taken away by others. Such people, if they go out to sea, I am afraid that they will be killed by pirates in less than 2 days. Not far away. A group of pirates stared blankly at the scene in front of them, speechless for a while. These guys are really not afraid of death. Don't they know what will happen if they provoke this monster? Things are getting more and more interesting. These foolish idiots dare to take the initiative to provoke Li Ang. Is it possible that they think numbers are everything? With such an amount, I think the monster Li Ang can be completely eliminated in less than 5 minutes. Quote. Their faces were full of astonishment, and they had to admire the courage of these people. Also, the ability of that brainwashed person is quite terrifying. Chapter 586_Angry Crowd. Also, the ability of that brainwashed person is quite terrifying. Even if he died, so many people could still avenge him for him. This kind of ability is not something that ordinary people can have. Even they admit that the counterfeit has the ability. However, he should never have chosen the wrong person to pretend to be. If it was someone else, maybe he might not be able to get him. But this person is Li Ang. It can only show that this counterfeit is really too deadly. You said, what will happen next? A pirate's face changed and asked in a low voice. If Li Ang wants to do it, no one here will survive. Another sturdy pirate said solemnly with a solemn face. They are deeply aware of the horror level of Li Ang. Different from those stupid residents, they can still recognize Li Ang's deity. Moreover, they understood more clearly how terrifying the power Li Ang possessed. With his own power, he can suppress the existence of the Navy headquarters. How can he be an idle person? So, if Li Ang really wants to kill people, there are not enough people here to stick between their teeth. The other side. The 4 girls, Hancock, Robin, Tautu, and Tina, looked at Li Ang, who was surrounded by the crowd in front of them, and did not worry at all. On the contrary, Tina and Tautu were a little worried that Li Ang would kill them. Those civilians, though stupid, are innocent lives. They still couldn't bear to see so many people buried here. However, Li Ang had his own way. Even though the two of them had all kinds of opinions in their hearts, they did not take the initiative to remind Liang. Whatever Liang wants to do, they will give 100% support in their hearts. As for Hancock and Robin, they wouldn't care too much about how many people died. The road they walked was very bumpy. For murder, whether it was ordinary people, pirates, or the Navy, a lot of them died at their hands. Therefore, no matter what Liang does, they will not feel the slightest surprise. These idiots don't know they're going to die. Tina gritted her silver teeth and said involuntarily. They have been completely brainwashed. Robin May thought for a while and said slowly. How can people who have been brainwashed recover easily? Liang killed the counterfeit goods, but it was only a way to treat the symptoms and not the root cause. However, as for what happened next, it had nothing to do with them. As long as the group of pirates is found out, they can leave here. At that time, what will happen to this group of civilians? Will they care? Whether in Liang's eyes or in the eyes of the four of them, ordinary people or ordinary people. How could they care what ordinary people think? What's more, it's still this group of ordinary people who have no brains. Central venue. The headless corpse beside Liang was very conspicuous. And he was about to be surrounded by a crowd. The angry crowd couldn't calm down and think about other things. The only thought in this group of people was to directly kill the beast Liang who killed the fake. In this way, they are also avenging the counterfeit goods. However, this is just their wishful thinking. Stupid people. Liang held the first generation of ghosts, and his face was expressionless. He stared at the angry crowd approaching him step by step, still with a calm expression, without showing a flustered expression at all. On the contrary, he was used to it and seemed very calm. Chapter 587 Ways to Make Others Fear. It's this damn guy who killed Lord Liang. Today, we must not let him walk half a step out of this island. Use his life to pay homage to Lord Liang. Yes, we must keep him here forever and bury him with Lord Liang. Everyone is ready. He is just one person. Can he still deal with so many of us? Quote. The angry crowd had completely lost their minds. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they stared at Liang in front of them, constantly approaching. The battle of tens of thousands of people is quite large. Even walking, the ground shook. At this time, hearing these people's words in Liang's ear, he felt a little weird. These people are shouting, all of them are their own names. What I have to do is really to help the counterfeit get revenge. This was the first time he had encountered such a thing. However, dealing with this method in front of you is very simple. There is no need to intimidate the other party with the overlord color, it is just a temporary solution. If they wake up, they will definitely want Liang again. Therefore, there is only one way to make them restrain themselves and dare not make any rash actions against Liang. Just let them understand the real fear. Then, they will naturally cherish their own lives more. The so-called faith will be vulnerable when faced with death. And there are many ways to be frightened. Among them, the most simple and straightforward one is to use absolute power to kill them so that they are afraid, so that they will retreat without a fight against Liang. This method is far more effective than the shock and deterrence of the overlord. Only the dead can understand a cruel truth. Not everyone in this world is willing to sacrifice their lives for others. In particular, a person who has died, it is not necessary to say more. When people die, they will recognize the reality. If one or two die, they may not react. But if it is thousands of diaresis, when there are corpses everywhere, they will know how stupid they are doing. At that time, their fear will go deep into their bones. And what I want to do is very simple, as long as it kills their fears, that's enough. Liang held the first generation goosh, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he smiled lightly. So, next, who will die first? He didn't mind slaughtering these people at all. He was so sick of seeing these stupid people. It would be better to simply kill it directly, which would save a lot of trouble. Come on, let me see your resolve. Li Ang looked at the crowd in front of him and spoke slowly. Lang Lang smiled and said, want to take revenge for this fake? Then do it, let me see your courage. Since you have the idea of killing people, then I also want you to understand. If you want to kill people, you must also be prepared to be killed by others. I'll start this class for you. And the price, of course, is your life. Li Ang raised his head, laughed loudly, and said these words. He immediately stunned a group of people, and his expression became a little flustered. After all, they are just ordinary people, not pirates or powerful people. Li Ang in front of him is obviously very powerful. Can they really defeat it? Once such an emotion appears, it will spread to each of them and cannot be easily erased. Don't be afraid, he just wants to interfere with our resolve. Don't we want to avenge Lord Li Ang? If we want to avenge Lord Li Ang, now, show your courage. That's right, the death of Lord Li Ang must not be tolerated. We must use the head of this damn fellow to pay homage to Lord Li Ang. Quote. Chapter 587 _ The way to make others fear. Quote. There was a lot of talk, and the momentum was restored again. Each of them found the courage to persevere. Looking at Li Ang in front of him alone, the originally panicked mind gradually calmed down. He's only a mere man. Could it be that with so many of us, we can't kill a mere man? We have tens of thousands of people here. A young man roared with a frantic face. As soon as the words fell, the morale of the original crowd was only seen rising. Go! A group of people quickly rushed to Li Ang's position. Some armed with weapons, some with bare hands. Their faces were full of fearless expressions. Seeing the expressions of this group of people, Li Ang smiled. Very well, that's it, let me see your courage. Since you have the intention to kill me, then you should be prepared to be killed by me. Come on, let me see how much your courage is worth. And how long you can endure it. Don't let me down. Li Ang said bluntly without any expression, holding the first-generation goosh. At this time, there is no need to discuss anyone's position. You don't need to care about who is being deceived by whom, let alone whether they are brainwashed. Li Ang only needs to know that these people want to kill him, and this is enough. Then, in his heart, kill the thoughts of these people. If you want to kill, you have to be prepared to be killed. Hasn't this always been the law of the sea? This world is like this, it's impossible. Li Ang is a good person, standing and letting these people kill him. Although, these people are ordinary people. But to let Li Ang stand and be killed by them, Li Ang wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Diaresis kill. A young man arrived in front of Li Ang, holding a machete, and slashed at Li Ang's head. It's good to come. Li Ang's eyes flickered, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He held the first generation of ghosts, raised it slightly, and directly blocked the young man's attack. At the same time, with lightning speed, the knife slid past. Puff! The young head was directly chopped off and turned into a headless corpse and fell to the side. Blood spurted out, dyeing the place nuo how red. The bloody smell was extremely pungent and spread around. The death of one person cannot affect this group of angry people. The death of the two people still cannot change their mentality, let alone defeat their courage. But if thousands of people died, they would be moved. If thousands of people are not enough, then kill 10,000 people. Come on. Li Ang's eyes narrowed slightly, his face expressionless. He held the first generation of ghosts and swept past. Puff, puff, puff. One by one, the heads were cut off and thrown into the air. The heads appeared parabolic, and gradually fell to the ground. They rolled on the ground for several times before they stopped. Their eyes were wide and they couldn't rest. Bright red blood flooded the entire earth. And, with the passage of time, blood melted into the earth. The entire ground was dyed dark red, and the smell of blood in the air became more and more intense. Chapter 588 _ Then kill enough. The way to get you to stop is very simple, that is to kill. Do you think I won't kill you? That's really too young. Whether you are ordinary people, old or weak, sick or disabled, I will not show any mercy to anyone who wants to kill me. So, each of you may be killed by me. Next, be careful, my knife is already hungry and thirsty. Li Ang's eyes narrowed slightly, and the first-generation Goosh also trembled. The blood of the killed people is directly sucked dry by it. It seems to have smelled the breath of blood, making it very excited and excited. Kill. Several more young people rushed towards Li Ang's position. They looked crazy, completely fearless, and moved forward. Such courage is commendable. Let Li Ang appreciate these people again, but this does not prevent him from thinking of killing. As long as he wants to kill him, he will kill back. What about ordinary people? Is it because ordinary people have this privilege? Joke. Since they are ignorant residents, it is very simple to stop them. As long as they kill enough, they will naturally stop. As long as they are killed to make them fear, everything will stop. 027, then kill enough. The corner of Li Ang's mouth raised an arc, and with a cold smile, he muttered to himself. In front of him, several young people attacked. Die. The expressions of several young people became hideous, and they laughed wildly. However, when their weapons were cut off, they found that Li Ang's figure had disappeared without a trace, and they could not capture the trace of the other party at all. Where are the people? Where have you been? One's eyes widened, and his expression couldn't hide his panic. I'm behind you. Li Ang's face was calm, standing behind a few young people, smiling lightly. At the same time, he raised the knife and dropped the first-generation ghost in a single stroke. Puff, puff, puff. The heads of several young people were directly chopped off, thrown in the air, showing a perfect arc, falling to the ground and rolling like a ball. Blood dyed the whole earth red. Not enough. Li Ang smiled lightly as he looked at the advancing crowd. But this is better, it can kill a happy. No matter who he is, as long as he wants to kill himself, he will kill him back. I.e., CDFH, even women are no exception. Women are privileged. It's not his woman, he doesn't need to keep his hands. Therefore, there are several women who died in his hands, and they cut off their heads without showing any mercy. Even before dying, I'm afraid they still can't believe that Li Ang will really do something to himself. This guy doesn't care about the difference between men and women, nor does he care about the difference between young and old. Anyone who wants to do something is within the scope of Li Ang's murder. Li Ang would not kill him unless he quit the battlefield. Puff, puff, puff. Headless corpses fell to the ground. Fresh blood flowed, bright red blood, very dazzling. Not far away. A group of pirates watched this one-sided slaughter, shuddered and got goosebumps. Li Ang, really want to kill these people? A pirate's expression was full of fear, his lips trembled, and his voice trembled. Chapter 588 then kill enough. And GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. A pirate's expression was full of fear, his lips trembled, and his voice trembled. It was something he couldn't imagine. Although they did a lot of evil, at most, they only slaughtered a few hundred people. But now, there are tens of thousands of people Li Ang wants to slaughter. This terrifying number has exceeded the number of people killed by their entire pirate group, from small to large. It's terrifying, Li Ang, this monster. Sure enough, no matter who you provoke, you must not provoke Li Ang. My God, are you going to witness a massacre today? Li Ang really wants to kill these people. However, I can understand Li Ang's mood. These guys are so stupid, and they are trying to avenge the fake. Since they want to take revenge, they must be prepared to be killed. Quote. A group of pirates looked excitedly at the carnage ahead. Of course. Seeing Li Ang's devil-like figure, the fear in their hearts was infinitely magnified. Li Ang, this monster, won't attack us, will it? A pirate asked tentatively with a dry throat. If that's the case, they can't escape. No way. One person shook his head and explained, although Liang is a terrifying monster. However, have you found out that he killed all those who took the initiative to attack him? For the rest, he didn't start killing people. So, he's just protecting himself. It's impossible. He was killed by others, right? So, I can only blame these ordinary people. It's too calm. They kill people, so naturally they have to be prepared to be killed. And we are just a spectator from beginning to end, and this monster Liang will definitely not attack us. Some explanation. All the pirates also calmed down a bit and breathed a sigh of relief. If Liang was going to deal with them, they should be afraid in their hearts. Fortunately, it was obvious that Liang had no plans to take action against them. In their sight, the battlefield ahead was tragic. Liang held the first-generation Goosh in his hand and stood still. Around him, there were already 300 or 500 dead corpses. These people are all actively attacking him. And from the beginning to the end, he did not take the initiative to kill. If it was him who launched the attack, there would be more than a few people who died here. He took the initiative to attack, and there were already thousands of people who died here, at least. Not just a few hundred people. The people who died around him were all dead. The head and body are separated. It can be seen that a large piece of headless corpses piled up into a mountain beside Liang. The scene was extremely terrifying, making people shudder and numb their scalps. All dead, dead. The angry crowd finally calmed down a little. They looked at the large corpse in front of them in panic, their lips trembled, and the fear in their hearts welled up. Looking at Liang himself, he was still unscathed. There was not even a trace of blood on the clothes. This huge contrast makes their self-confidence gradually collapse. How can this ***** guy be so strong? Hundreds of people have died, can't you touch him at all? Damn, this damn fellow, he killed Lord Liang. Absolutely unforgivable. Today, we must kill him to pay homage to Lord Liang. Everyone, get ready, go ahead. Quote. However, this group of angry people still has no intention of retreating. Immediately, another attack they broke out, facing Liang in front of them alone, the scene of their group of tens of thousands of people, the contrast is quite large. Chapter 589 _ have a good feeling. Liang was alone, standing in one position. Directly in front of the crowd, there are tens of thousands of people. The scene of tens of thousands of people charging, how mighty it was. It's just to kill one person, so on the surface, the scene of Liang fighting alone is really unbearable. But in the eyes of everyone, they will not be deceived by this superficial illusion. Liang alone is comparable to thousands of troops. Even with these tens of thousands of people, Liang couldn't do anything at all. It's starting, these lifeless idiots are really going to attack. This time, they really played a big game, angered Liang, and all of them had to die here. It's really exciting to be able to see such a scene. Quote. The corners of a group of pirates moved slightly, looking forward with excitement. It was a massacre. It was a one-sided massacre, but the scary thing is that these residents even took the initiative to send them to the door and let Liang kill him. This is really ridiculous. If they hadn't attacked, Liang wouldn't have launched such a swift attack. But they actually attacked. That thing is really getting more and more interesting. Look, it's unfolding. A pirate pointed forward and shouted excitedly. In their line of sight, they could see that the battlefield erupted again to the point of white hot. Liang held the first generation of ghosts, facing the people who came to attack and kill. He didn't panic at all, he didn't feel the slightest sense of tension, but what he could see was a calm demeanor. Puff, puff, puff. One by one, the heads were cut off and dropped in the air. Liang did not have a drop of blood on his body, and his speed was extremely fast, so that these ordinary people could not see clearly, and he had already killed no less than 100 people. On the ground, corpses piled up in mountains. Originally it was a music conference, but now, it has turned into sheer hell. No one was injured. Under Liang's terrifying strength, some were just dead. There are no injured people, only the dead. But whoever bears Liang's knife, there is no one who is immortal. Therefore, the number of dead is constantly increasing. And these angry crowd finally noticed a little panic. Unfortunately, they could no longer retreat, and under the push of the people behind, they had to attack Liang. Kill, we have no way out. The people behind us are chasing too hard for us to back off. If that's the case, then we'll kill it. Today, we must kill this damn boy. Dare to kill Lord Liang, this kid is doomed. Quote. The crowd was still very excited and shouting. The voice was loud, resounding through the sky. Each of them, even with their bare hands, still aggressively attacked. Great opportunity. A young man's eyes lit up, and he went around Liang's back, holding a small knife in his hand, and stabbed it violently. Boom. He was hit, and his expression became more and more arrogant, and he laughed. I hit him, he's going to die. Ha 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 ha. The young man laughed wildly, and the whole person seemed to be crazy. At this time, Liang turned his head and looked at the young man calmly without any expression. Ah! The young man's smile stopped abruptly, his lips trembling. His expression was full of disbelief, and he stared blankly at the knife in his hand. There was no blood on the blade. In the moment just now, Liang spread the domineering of his armed color, so it was still too difficult for these people to break his armed color. Therefore, the attacks of young people are of no use. Impossible, how is this possible? The young man was frightened and kept shaking his head, unable to believe what he was facing. Chapter 589_Feel It Well. The young man was frightened and kept shaking his head, unable to believe what he was facing. How can you not break the opponent's back? Should not be. His knife is so sharp that it can pierce even a stone. How can you hit someone and not get any scars? Too weak. Liang wielded the first-generation goosh and swept past. Puff. The young man's head was gradually separated from his body. A headless corpse fell to the ground with a thump sound. The blood splattered and splattered around, dyeing the clothes of some people red. A pungent bloody smell wafted out. In front of Liang, more than a dozen brawny men armed with weapons came with murderous expressions on their faces. If these people are not ordinary people, then they must be the subordinates of that fake. The appearance is fierce, but it is not close to Liang. Puff, puff, puff. Liang's first-generation goosh directly chopped off their heads, raised his hands, and dropped their heads. The dead couldn't die any longer. Seeking flowers 0. In this short period of time, countless people died. Vaguely, approaching the point of 2,000 people. And Liang's side, the more corpses turned out, they were about to cover his figure. Feel good, the fear I brought to you. Liang narrowed his eyes slightly, and said with a smile. He held the first generation of ghosts and went down in one battle. A sharp slash was forced out from the tip of the knife. Call out. The slash passed away in a flash, and the dazzling light was infinitely magnified in the sight of everyone in the crowd. I can no longer see Liang's figure. I can only capture. A ray of light fills my line of sight. What is this? A young man said with trembling lips and a terrified expression. A deadly sense of crisis enveloped him. 0. At the same time, he also felt that he couldn't move. The strong oppressive force is suppressed on everyone's shoulders, so that their eyes can only watch the sharp slash ahead, constantly approaching their position. This bright light caught everyone's attention. Even a group of pirates outside the arena, far away from each other, felt a sense of suffocation. Liang, are you serious? A pirate's throat was dry, his expression was full of fear, and he trembled. If this monster is serious, it is absolutely impossible for these people to survive. What a powerful blow. With this move, the people who die are probably not predictable by 3 figures. Yes, Li Ang's strength is really strong. These idiots, now, are finally getting scared. Quote. A group of pirates trembled and shivered. Even they were so far apart that they couldn't breathe because of this oppressive pressure. Not to mention, the crowd who faced Li Ang's slashing head-on. Under Li Ang's terrifying slash. The crowd, everyone stiffened, unable to move. Their eyes widened, involuntarily, and there was a strong sense of fear. The enemy in front of them is too strong, so powerful that they cannot be matched. At this moment, they finally understood just how terrifying the enemy in front of him is. But now I understand that it is too late to die. The slash in front of them gradually wrapped them in. Chapter 590_corpses are everywhere. These foolish fellows will die. Hancock's pretty face was expressionless and said lightly. She didn't care how many people died. The only thing she cared about was how long it would take for Li Ang to finish these things, and then accompany them to find the pirate group. It is no longer necessary to consider whether the dead person is an ordinary person. Anyone who wants to attack Li Ang will be killed. This is the fact, no matter one's identity or strength, as long as there is a murderous heart, then Li Ang will not show any mercy. It's a pity. Tautu and Tina sighed, looking very helpless, said. These ordinary people should not have died here. It's a pity that they were so stupid that they even tried to avenge the counterfeit goods. This is simply killing themselves. In the battlefield directly ahead. A dazzling, 490, strike enveloped the crowd. Puff, puff, puff. A crisp sound came out. With the naked eye, everyone, under this fierce slash, instantly turned into a cloud of blood and exploded directly, leaving no bones. The sky was stained with blood, and the entire earth was stained red with blood. Ah! The aftermath of a man's slashing reverberated, and half of his body was destroyed. He roared in pain, his eyes gradually lost sight, and he died on the spot. A burst of wailing and painful cries continued to spread out. A sharp slash, from the front, pierced through the entire crowd surrounding Li Ang, smashing across a distance of thousands of meters. In a row, everyone, all disappeared without a trace. With this knife, no less than 3,000 people died. Originally, tens of thousands of people completely surrounded Li Ang, presenting a 360-degree angle, but Li Ang's slash directly killed all the people in the area of about 30 degrees. It crossed the crowd directly, but no one could survive if it was affected. There are no seriously injured people, only the dead. Silence. Everyone in the audience fell into silence, their lips trembled, and their expressions were full of horror. The crowd surrounding Li Ang was also frightened. They were dominated by Li Ang's terrifying power, and they did not dare to act rashly at all. The gap between ordinary people and non-ordinary people is also thoroughly revealed. Under Li Ang's tyrannical power, ordinary people like them seemed vulnerable and completely incapable of resisting. Before raising his hand, thousands of people died under Li Ang's knife. Unfortunately, this is very unpleasant for the first generation of ghosts. These people directly turned into blood mist and fell on the ground. How does this make it suck the blood of others? However, since the owner is Li Ang, it naturally dare not show anything. Dead, they're all dead. A young man, slumped on the ground, looked at the surrounding fields in fear, trembling. I can't believe that the people here were fighting side by side with them just now. At this moment, all of them are actually dead. How is this possible? How could these people be killed so easily? Moreover, all of a sudden, thousands of people died at the same time, which made the fear in their hearts infinitely magnified. All of a sudden, more than 3,000 people died. Can we really get this monster? My God, he is too strong. Can we really avenge Lord Li Ang today? No, it must be a hallucination. Tell me, it must be a dream. Chapter 590_corpses are everywhere. No, it must be a hallucination. Tell me, it must be a dream. Quote. The crowd boiled with fear. Looking at the pile of headless corpses beside Liang, they shuddered and their scalps went numb. What kind of courage did they have just now that they dared to attack Liang? Before you know it, nearly 10,000 people here have died. And the enemy is only one person. What the hell is going on here? Countless people couldn't believe what they saw. How can one person be so powerful? The strong smell of blood permeated out and reverberated in their noses. The pungent smell, coupled with the horror scene in front of them, really made them want to vomit. Especially on the ground, there are still quite a few that were affected by the aftermath of the slash. Half of the body was destroyed, and some internal organs were still left on the ground. The death of these people really made their spines wet with cold sweat. At this moment, they were finally completely covered by fear. Courage and self-confidence, and all morale, crumbled and ceased to exist. Liang single-handedly destroyed the morale of their group. At this time, Liang held the first generation of Gush, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked at the fearful crowd in front of him. The corners of his mouth were slightly curved, showing a smile. Such a scene was what he wanted to see. If there are no dead people, how can these people have a long memory? Cruel. If it is cruel, it is cruel. But so what? Even if the Navy headquarters came here, would it do anything for these people? No, absolutely not. Because Liang is really too strong, it is really irrational to fight against Liang for these ordinary people. Whether it is the Warring States period as the marshal or Akainu as the marshal. Liang, this monster, no one wants to take the initiative to provoke him. Not to mention the Navy headquarters, they have a lot of things to take into account, and it is impossible for them to collide and rub against monsters like Liang. The consequences of this are unbearable for them. Since you have the intention to kill, you must be ready to be killed. Liang held the first generation of ghosts, looked at the crowd in front of him, and said with a faint smile, "So, I don't care who you are, how strong or pitiful you are. But anyone who wants to kill me, I will not merciful. You are no exception." Finished talking. The crowd was surging, and everyone looked at Liang with fearful eyes, not daring to say a word. The so-called belief collapsed directly at this moment. Nothing is more important than their lives. Therefore, they dare not act rashly. 4.7 Unless they are willing to die, but such people do not exist. Fear spreads in their hearts, covering the whole body, they can no longer control their hands and feet, and are constantly shaking. This guy, he's too strong. We can't compete. After fighting for so long, nearly 10,000 people died, and we couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. If so, how could we fight? Let's admit defeat, we are not an opponent at all, not an enemy on a level. Quote. The crowd retreated. It's no wonder that they would naturally be afraid when they saw the scene in front of them with corpses scattered all over the place. Especially now that their courage and self-confidence have been destroyed, in the final analysis, they are just a group of ordinary people. Faced with such a situation, no matter how many they are, they will inevitably feel a sense of fear. Chapter 591-Unforgettable Day. Lord Liang, did you just die in vain? A young man was still unwilling, gritted his teeth, and said in a low voice. Brother, don't think about it. You also have to weigh your own strength and recognize what is in front of you. The situation is no longer something you can change by yourself. Also, even if you add so many of us, you may not be able to kill him. So, let's stop, we admit it, because this person is too strong. In this world, the strong prey on the weak, and whoever is stronger is the last word. A middle-aged strong man sighed helplessly and said. The rest of the people nodded in agreement. The enemy in front of them is too strong, they are simply unable to match. Even if you rush up, it's just a death sentence. What can they do with this kind of thing? In addition to admit defeat and surrender, is there any other way? We have no way out. If we don't succeed, we will be killed. I don't want to die yet. There are old people and children in my family. I can't die here yet. So, everyone, sorry, I have to surrender. Me too, I can't die here. If I die, the elderly and children at home will be left alone. 23 So, I can only surrender. Quote. A group of people slumped on the ground, their faces ashen, sighing and talking. In front of them, Li Ang's face was calm, and he slowly put the first-generation goosh back into the scabbard, staring at the unlovable crowd in front of him, unmoved. After one of his sharp slashes, a deep crack was obviously hit on the ground. So people looked at the cracks on the ground in horror, their lips trembling, and they were unable to speak. This knife is terrible. A pirate had a dry throat, staring blankly at the picture in front of him, unable to speak. He couldn't believe that the deep crack was actually caused by a knife. Sure enough, it is indeed Li Ang. Such power is worthy of Li Ang, who is called a monster. A knife cut off even the earth, and the bottomless pit was exposed in their sight. Looking at it, all you see is a dark, bottomless pit with no end in sight. It's terrifying. This is the real Li Ang. That imposter is really too bold. He dares to pretend to be such a terrifying existence. He deserves his death. No, for provoking such a terrifying monster, he died in vain. After all, this is the monster that can shake the naval headquarters. The most terrifying thing is that he alone represents an incomparably huge force. This is the most terrifying place. Quote. A group of pirates looked ahead with fearful faces and started talking. There was an indescribable fear in their words. Especially when they saw the crack on the ground, their fear was infinitely magnified. Such an attack, if it was them, would they be able to block it? The answer, of course, does not require thinking. Like these ordinary people, they will be completely blown away by this fierce attack, and their whole bodies will be turned into blood mist, and there will be no bones left. Today, they saw this unforgettable picture. This is what they saw with their own eyes. In this world, there are still such terrifying attacks. It was also the first time that they knew that Li Ang's horror was far more than what was spread on the surface. Now they have no doubts that Li Ang alone has the strength to compete with the naval headquarters. Simply, not human. Another strong pirate said with trembling lips and dry throat. Fissures spread over an area of thousands of meters. The entire venue was chopped in half. A bottomless crack, very ferocious and terrifying. Chapter 591 An Unforgettable Day. NLT, 29 and GT. A bottomless crack, very ferocious and terrifying. Just like an abyss that appeared on the ground, it was completely unclear what was going on below. It was too deep, there was darkness inside, and unknown things made their hearts throb and expressed deep fear. The other side. Hancock looked at the calm battlefield and said softly, "It's finally gone." So, the easiest and most direct way is to make them fear. Robin's beautiful eyes flashed and he said slowly. Tautu and Tina's faces were calm, and there was a bit of regret in their beautiful eyes, but they still didn't speak. Tens of thousands of people died, and their mood was still a little moved. But soon they were relieved. The murderer, Rinheng, killed him. Regardless of status, strength, gender, age, as long as you have a murderous heart, you must be prepared to be killed by others, isn't it right? Central venue. The crowd stared at Li Ang in front of them. In their hearts, Li Ang was like a devil, a monster's enemy, standing in front of them. The sense of fear is extremely strong. This trick really works. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly, looking at the fearful crowd in front of him, thinking to himself. To frighten these people, then a lot of troublesome things can be avoided. How to make them afraid? Here comes the solution. There are many people killed, and these people will naturally be afraid. This is unavoidable. These people are always just ordinary people, and their beliefs cannot be so firm. What's more, the people Li Ang killed in Marin Vando at the beginning, even the determined navy, were frightened by him. Not to mention these rabble, as long as enough people are killed, these people will naturally understand what is fear and what is fear. At this time, they naturally did not dare to act rashly. At the moment, the method he had planned was quite effective. As expected, many people died, and no matter how angry the crowd 953 was, they didn't have any fighting spirit and courage. So, what are you going to do now? With a smile, Li Ang looked ahead and smiled faintly. He moved his footsteps, holding the first generation of ghosts in his hands, and approached the crowd in front step by step. Feeling his footsteps, the crowd panicked. Each of them looked at Li Ang with fear, and their expressions could not hide the fear and fear. A terrifying oppressive force pressed heavily on their shoulders, completely unable to move. No, don't come, don't come. A young man put his hands on the ground, was frightened to the point of urinating, looked terrified, and shouted. You, what do you want to do? Are you going to kill us all? You can't do that. You monster, who are you? Quote. A group of people cried, lips trembling voices. This day was their most memorable day. All are dead. Tens of thousands of people fell beside them. Others, whose bones were directly crushed to shreds, ceased to exist. A large pile of corpses, piled up into a mountain, not far away, presented in the sight of each of them, and they will never forget what they experienced today, this terrifying picture. Chapter 592 _ The Real Li Ang. Who am I? Li Ang stopped, a meaningful smile appeared on his face, looking at one of the people in the crowd, smiled lightly. This question really made him a little interested. This is a ridiculous, ironic question. Who are you? Why do you want to kill Lord Li Ang? Lord Li Ang is a rare genius. If you kill him, your impact on the world will be huge. The young man still gritted his teeth and asked stubbornly. Stop talking. What if he gets angry and kills you? Shut up. The surrounding people spoke one after another, blocking the young man's words. But he was still confident and continued, could it be that you are jealous of Lord Li Ang's talent? So, you want him to disappear from this world. Besides this, is there any other understanding? How can I answer your question? Hello. Li Ang laughed dumbly. These questions made him quite troubled. After all, he himself is Li Ang. It's a pity that these stupid residents haven't discovered this yet. It's not that I don't know how to answer, it's that I can't answer it. Did I tell you what I had in mind? You guy, it's just too hateful. The young man's face was still angry, but due to Li Ang's terrifying power, he did not dare to act rashly. I'll tell you the answer now, and let you understand why I want to kill that imposter. Li Ang waved his hand, smiled lightly, and said, You ask me, who am I? This question is very simple. I can answer you, I am Li Ang. Silence. The whole place fell into silence. Everyone stared blankly at Li Ang in front of them, their lips trembling, and their faces were full of disbelief. Is this person Li Ang? Then, who is the dead person? Impossible, absolutely impossible. The crowd could not accept this answer in their hearts, and each of them became angry again and shouted. You bastard, don't insult Mr. Li Ang's name. Lord Li Ang, how could it be you? You are the real fake. That is, after killing Lord Li Ang, do you think you can pretend to be Lord Li Ang? Don't even think about this matter, we will definitely expose you. Quote. There was a lot of talk, and everyone questioned Li Ang's words. They will not believe the fact that Li Ang is the deity. On the contrary, the dead impostor is the Li Ang in their hearts. After all, they were brainwashed too seriously. What you know is not the real thing, and the person you see is not the real person. I'm impersonating. Why don't you think about it? Is he impersonating? You know, Li Ang can suppress the Navy headquarters alone. With the power level of this fake, can he suppress the Navy headquarters alone? Also, do you think the real Li Ang will live in your inconvenient place for so long? Don't be kidding, he's very busy, he doesn't teach anyone unless he has something very important, and he doesn't stay in any one place for too long. As for the idea of building a power, does he care? His strength already represents an incomparably huge power. Quote. Li Ang kept smiling, shook his head, looked at the crowd, and said bluntly. Immediately, the crowd fell into silence. Chapter 592 The real Li Ang. NLT, 31 and GT. The crowd fell into silence. For a long time, some people still couldn't believe it and kept shouting. Impossible, you must be deceiving us, you must be trying to deceive us. Yes, we must not believe his nonsense. Facing the words of this group of people, Li Ang waved his hand and said with a smile, I didn't force you to believe it. You walk out of this island and get to know the outside world. You will naturally know who Li Ang is and who is a fake. In my opinion, you usually rarely go out to sea. There should be some counterfeit person who used some measure to prevent you from going to sea. You haven't thought about it. What is this for? This. A group of people froze, their faces stunned. That's right. Li Ang was right. They thought of as Lord Li Ang. They tried every means to avoid them going to sea no matter what the situation was. At first, they were still puzzled, but for the respect of Lord Li Ang, they followed each other's words and did not go out to sea. This measure has been maintained for a long time. After Li Ang's reminder, they finally understood. Why is it forbidden to go to sea? Just afraid, did they know the truth of the matter? Thinking of this, they stared blankly at Li Ang's eye in front of them, their lips moved slightly, and their expressions became very complicated and sad. Diaresis, are you awake? Li Ang asked calmly with a calm face. The purpose of preventing these people from going to sea must be to prevent them from understanding the fact that counterfeit goods are impersonating. Newspapers have also been changed. On the contrary, the real newspapers that circulated in the outside world will be considered by them to be deliberately modified by someone, and they do not care too much. But now they finally understand that the newspapers circulating on their islands are the ones that have been revised. Look at it. Li Ang took out a newspaper from his arms and threw it directly to the crowd, saying lightly. Several young people quickly took over the hold, after seeing the above. All the S are the same, except that the figure on the pattern is not the so-called fake, but the young man standing in front of them. It must have been modified. A middle-aged man still couldn't believe it and kept shaking his head. Whatever you think, why should I make you believe? Good promise. This fake is also dead. When you go to sea in the future, you will naturally find out the truth of the matter. Now, what you say to me will definitely be very suspicious. But time will prove all this. The people who died here are all innocent. And they were killed because of your so-called ignorance. Li Ang's face was calm, he spoke again, and said. As soon as the words fell, the crowd fell silent. They stared blankly at the scene of corpses lying in front of them, and the emotions in their hearts were indescribable. Really, are they dying because of their stupidity? If they weren't stupid and wanted to attack Li Ang in front of him, these people wouldn't be dead. What a pity. They have only now realized a little bit. But close to tens of thousands of people have died. This lesson is quite profound, and it is impossible for them to forget today's lesson in their entire lives. NLT, 32 and GT. Chapter 593 Regret is too late. It's hard to forget this lesson but after tens of thousands of people died. Now they have vaguely believed Li Ang's words. Because everything Li Ang said was true. The fakes did keep them from going to sea casually, and ordered to curb any of them going to sea, keeping them isolated from the world. The information received is from counterfeit goods in the form of newspapers. It is conceivable that everything may be modified. If what Li Ang said is false, then they will naturally know the truth when they go to sea in the future. Not to mention, with the power of this monster in front of him, there is no need to lie to them at all. Thinking of this, they became even more silent, unable to speak. Is he really Li Ang? a young man said in a low voice with a dry throat. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was anxious, eager to know the answer. I don't know. The rest of the people shook their heads one after another. They didn't get the truth of the matter. They still couldn't be sure that everything Li Ang said was true. Suddenly, some people once thought of a group of outsiders. Isn't that group of outsiders all shouting that the Lord Li Ang, in their hearts is just an imposter, an imposter? Where did these people end up going? They are all dead. Li Ang's face was calm, as if he saw that 707 were everything that these people thought, and said lightly, if they don't die, how can the so-called Lord Li Ang, in your hearts realize his plan? How can you make you believe so firmly? Dead. A group of people whispered to themselves with trembling lips. They also once called the group of outsiders who moved people's hearts a group of liars. But I didn't expect that. In fact, they were just deceived. They can't see the facts clearly, but they mistakenly think that what others say is a lie. This is a great irony. After Li Ang's words, they almost completely believed it. Because there is no need for Li Ang to deceive them. Moreover, they can also go out to sea to find the truth. Now deceiving them, there is no point in dying. If they don't limit their ability to go out to sea, sooner or later they will come into contact with the truth of the matter. Therefore, Li Ang expressed these meanings directly, which is easy for them to believe. Unfortunately. No, now, it's too late. Nearly tens of thousands of people died. This was a huge blow to them. You are just a group of people who have been deceived in the dark. You are still stupid and want to avenge that fake. It's really ridiculous. If I didn't stop you, I'm afraid I'd die under your siege. But fortunately, you people who want to deal with me are not qualified enough. If you really want to kill me, at the very least, there must be 3 or 5 people with the strength of generals. And what about you? It's just a mob. Without any expression, Li Ang glanced at the crowd and said directly. No mercy, no mercy. As the saying goes, poor people must have something to hate. They don't know, it doesn't mean that they can kill Li Ang and take action. That being the case, it was only reasonable for Li Ang to kill them. Is this the truth of the matter? Unbelievable, the Lord Li Ang in our minds is actually just a big liar. A liar who deceived all of us, the whole island. Chapter 593_regret is too late. And LT, 33 and GT. Unbelievable, the Lord Li Ang in our minds is actually just a big liar. A liar who deceived all of us, the whole island. Then who is he? Why did he do this? There are so many of us who still trust him. He actually deceived our feelings. Quote. Why did it? Li Ang smiled lightly and replied, of course, because you are too easily deceived. I don't think he chose this island without consideration. What they considered, maybe, is that the people on your island rarely communicate with the outside world. Moreover, the main problem is that you are easily deceived. To be subtle, it means that your folk customs are simple. To put it directly, that is, your IQ is in arrears, and it is easy to be deceived. Li Ang said with no expression on his face. His words really brought a huge blow to the people here. However, he did not feel that his words were inappropriate. CDBG, this was the truth, and there was nothing to say. It is necessary for him to let these stupid residents understand one thing. In life, not everyone can be trusted. Because he's a fake, you can't see him playing the piano, and you can't see him attracting the Aquaman. Why doesn't he play? Because he simply can't do what I can. If he plays, he's out. I believe that there are more than one of you who wanted him to play a song, right? But what happened? He must have shied away for various reasons. It's ridiculous. Even so, you are still being played by him in the palm of your hand. Quote. Li Ang continued. His words were passed out, making the faces of the crowd even paler. That's right. None of this is wrong. They once wanted to see the sound of the impostor's piano, but unfortunately, no matter what, they were shied away by the other party for various reasons. But at that time, they did not doubt the identity of the other party at all, and they really foolishly believed the other party's reason. All of this can be noticed if you pay a little attention and be careful. That fake can't do it perfectly. There are many loopholes in him, but no one can find it. It's not that the ability of the counterfeiter is too perfect, but that no one has thought of this at all, and will not suspect the identity of the counterfeit because of many clues. These residents are so stupid. This. Everyone in the crowd was stunned, and it was completely confirmed. Lord Liang, they believed was a fake. Apart from the revised newspaper, there is nothing to indicate that the imposter is Liang. Only they were arranged to foolishly believe it. Thinking of this, the expressions of each of them became very depressed. Looking at the mountains of corpses in front of them, they were speechless for a while. Sorry. They felt extremely regretful. If they were more careful, serious, and smart, they would not have caused the current tragedy. Unfortunately, regret is useless. The dead cannot be resurrected. And today, it is finally to teach them a painful lesson. Tens of thousands of people have died, isn't this lesson not too painful? I believe they will naturally change in the future. These tens of thousands of people are the result of their stupidity. And finally, and because of Liang's words, they overthrew the fakes in their minds. It turned out that their deaths were just meaningless. They are fighting with their lives for an imposter who has deceived them for so long. Thinking of this, each of them felt a great irony in their hearts that could not be erased. NLT 34 and GT. Chapter 594_leave. Lord Liang in our hearts, is it really fake? Another young man couldn't hold back and whispered to himself. It was as if all trust had been directly overturned. The great existence they trusted, the Lord Liang, whom they respected, turned out to be just an impostor and deceived them for so long. I can't believe that we were deceived by all of us. The whole island was deceived by him alone. Our respected Lord Liang is actually just a fake. My God, why make fun of us ordinary people? We just want to find someone to believe in. Is this also wrong? Damn it, he actually cheated on our feelings. He's dead. I want to find his body right now and burn him to ashes. Damn it, he made us work hard for him, but he was just a fake. We fought hard for a fake. Quote. Anger and grief appeared on the faces of a group of people once again. Only. At this moment, their anger was directed at the imposter, not Liang. After Liang's words, no matter how ignorant they were, they could come to the truth of the matter. They were deceived. This is something they can already be sure of in their hearts. Otherwise, there is no way to explain all the weird things in the past. In the past, they didn't think there was anything weird about those things, but now, when they looked at it, they felt more and more weird. It's a pity that even if they see through it now, it is useless. There are already tens of thousands of people who have died. Now that they understand it, what's the point? That means that. Suddenly, a young man looked at Liang in front of him and said, "Is he the real Liang? That terrifying strength just now, maybe it's really him. Did we attack Liang just now?" A middle-aged man's lips trembled, his eyes enlarged infinitely. They shuddered when they thought that they had actually attacked the real Liang just now. Liang, who is rumored on the sea, is an out-and-out monster. Kill without blinking. Then they really need a lot of luck to survive. In addition, Liang, who is in front of him, did not have the intention of killing them all. Otherwise, with their strength, they would have been killed long ago, and how could they have survived until now without any injuries on their bodies? It's a pity that tens of thousands of people died in the hands of the other party in such a confused way. And the reason made them feel the irony. They fought against the real Liang for a fake. Instead, Liang killed tens of thousands of people. Such a thing is enough for them to remember for a lifetime. Are you really Liang? A man looked at Liang and asked in a trembling voice. There are still a group of people who can't believe it. is the young man in front of him really Liang? A real Liang, standing in front of them. And the counterfeit is already dead on the ground. This dramatic scene made everyone unable to believe it. What do you think? Liang said with a calm face and a faint smile. With your strength, there is no need to deceive us at all. You are really Liang. That one can suppress the terrifying monsters in the Navy headquarters by himself. Your strength just now can also directly reflect your identity. And these are all things that the counterfeit does not have. I hate it. How can I not find out the clues of the counterfeit in the past? Chapter 594_leaving. NLT, 35 and GT. And these are all things that the counterfeit does not have. I hate it. How can I not find out the clues of the counterfeit in the past? He obviously doesn't know how to play the piano and has no strength. How could he deceive so many of us? Are we really too stupid? Quote. The crowd was noisy, and everyone doubted life. A person who is 108,000 miles away from Liang, but he played them all in applause, and made them trust each other's identity incomparably. This is great irony. Why can the other party do this? Newspaper. Because of a revised newspaper and the promotion of forces, each of them gradually trusted the other, and subtly became the loyal believers of the other. In this way, even if someone questions the identity of the other party again, what they need to think about at the first time is not to accompany these people to question them together. Instead, for the sake of those they trust, they go crazy on those who question them. In their view, anyone who doubts is crazy and unreasonable. As everyone knows, it is these stupid residents who are deceived in the dark. Everyone else knows very well that this is a fake. Only they didn't understand, and they foolishly continued to believe in the identity of the other party. It's up to you to think about whether I am the real Liang. Whether I am Liang has little to do with you. Because, I won't stay in this place for too long at all. So, Liang, for you, there will be no change at all. So, you can trust or not trust, it's all up to your own ideas. As for me, I won't build any power here. I won't cultivate anyone, and I won't have a piano conversation with anyone. Above, all you need to know is enough. Liang's face was calm, and he said lightly. This remark made the crowd even more convinced of his identity. Not for any purpose, in this case, the authenticity of Liang's identity has nothing to do with them. It is because of this that they trust more, and Liang's identity is real. The Liang in front of him is the real Liang, not a fake. It's really Lord Liang. Lord Liang, we were wrong. We shouldn't listen to the slander and attack you. Be merciful and spare us. Yes, Lord Liang, we really shouldn't have done anything to you. Quote. The crowd began to beg for mercy and cry. Don't worry, I won't do it. The people who died are just because they wanted to kill me. If you don't do it, I won't fight back. So, you people who died, it's just that they did something to me. Liang waved his hand, his face was calm, and he continued. Finished talking. He turned his head and walked in the direction of the Four of Hancock, leaving the crowd with an unfathomable back. Lord Liang. Everyone stared blankly at Liang's back and whispered to himself. They wanted to keep it, but couldn't find any reason to speak. Therefore, they could only watch helplessly as Liang left step by step, but they had no way to stop each other. Nearly 10,000 people died here. This can only put this account on the head of each of them. If they hadn't been too impulsive, things wouldn't have evolved into this situation. Now, it's too late to say anything. NLT, 36 and GT. Chapter 595_Small Village. It's always been our fault. A group of people sighed, looking at the scene of corpses lying everywhere, with complicated emotions. On impulse, tens of thousands of people were killed. That's the price of their impulsiveness. This is still under the condition that Liang keeps his hand. If the wolf is not merciful, the number of people who died is far more than that of tens of thousands. Li Ang did his best, no one here can escape. The fakes we identified, he has always just used us. And we were used by him stupidly. Even in the end, he didn't try his best. These brothers, it's so wrong to die. By the way, there are also the forces established by this counterfeit. Those damn forces, we must destroy them. Staying here is just to harm the world. That's right, he still has the remaining forces, let us do it and get rid of them. Staying here is just adding a threat to our island. Quote. Everyone's faces were firm, their teeth were gritted, and they were full of anger. They can only vent their anger on the remaining forces of counterfeit goods. Otherwise, would you still seek revenge on Li Ang? This thought, which only existed in their heads, disappeared in a flash, and the 707 disappeared. They don't have this ability. And, besides, from the beginning, it was only their unilateral attack that Li Ang would do it. Before that, Li Ang also reminded them many times. It's just that they are stubborn and are still bewitched by counterfeiters. Therefore, it is not without reason that tens of thousands of them died. Could it be that Li Ang is to blame? It's just weird, they don't have heads, they just believe in a fake, and they haven't even tried their best. This is what they need to reflect on the most. Let's go, let's destroy the power that this fake is left here. A burly young man shouted with anger on his face. Go. A group of people with a mighty force gradually left here. There are still some people left, and the bodies are cleaned up here. Seeing the corpses everywhere, they couldn't help sighing and looked down. Not far away. A group of pirates looked at the scene ahead with emotion on their faces. These people are all dead. A pirate's mouth moved slightly and whispered to himself. Yeah, in an instant, tens of thousands of people were directly beheaded. This is Li Ang. This monster is too strong. If he wants to attack us, we won't even survive for a few seconds, and he will kill him directly. No, so let's not provoke this monster. The lessons from the past are in front of us. That ridiculous imposter, daring, and now, the consequences are still there. Quote. A group of pirates talked in a low voice. They shuddered when they saw the pile of corpses in front of them. Even if they do a lot of evil, it is rare to see such a scene. Thousands of people were killed at once. They have been pirates for so long, and they have never experienced such a scene. Moreover, the total number of people killed by the hands is not enough to 10,000 people, right? But now, Li Ang alone has killed tens of thousands of people in just a few minutes. This is what everyone in the sea fears, Li Ang. Let's go, the excitement here is over. A pirate shook his head and prepared to leave. Chapter 595 Small Village. NLT, 37 and GT. A pirate shook his head and prepared to leave. The rest of the people thought for a while and suggested, let's not take a look at what Li Ang is going to do. If you have the guts, you can go, anyway, I don't dare to go. In case, if he suddenly gets angry, we are not enough for him, why should we seek death? That's right. After a group of pirates talked for a while, they gradually left here. The music conference was completely reduced to a tomb. Tens of thousands of people have died here, and even more people, unable to keep their bodies, were directly torn apart by terrifying forces, turned into nothingness, and disappeared with the wind. Their death, even the bones cannot be found, CDDB, it can be said that the death is quite terrifying. The other side. After Li Ang fought with Hancock and others, he gradually left the music conference. Here, after killing the counterfeit and getting the news about that pirate group, that matter can be announced for the time being. Where are those pirates? Robin's beautiful eyes flashed, looked at Li Ang, and asked in a low voice. They were walking on the side of the road at this time. No one noticed that they had left the concert venue. Things there can't be conveyed so quickly. A small village to the southeast. Also, they're only there every other week. It doesn't mean that all the kids are there. In order to save 3,000 people, nearly 10,000 people were killed. This is really not an ordinary irony. Li Ang raised his head and said slowly with a touch of emotion. The purpose of coming to this island is to save 3,000 children. Of course, the main thing is to go out for a walk and not get bored in the same place. But what I didn't expect was that when I came here, I killed 10,000 people in exchange for 3,000 children. This is really ironic. It's just that the residents are so stupid. Hancock's pretty face moved, and his slender hand held Li Ang's arm, looking at Li Ang with great concern, a little worried, and said softly. Little Nizi, you only killed tens of thousands of people. Are you worried that I won't be able to pass this level? Are you kidding me? Li Ang scratched Hancock's nose and said with a smile. Seeing Hancock's concerned expression, his heart warmed, and the things in his heart were swept away. All in all, you can live a happy life, and don't care what others do. It's selfish, but it's human nature, isn't it? By the way, Tina, what's the name of the pirates? Li Ang looked at Tina's delicate face and asked with a smile. The Merc Pirates, their captain is Merc Derry, with a bounty of 140 million berries. Tina thought for a while, and replied slowly. It seems that the Navy headquarters is still paying attention to this incident. An ordinary little pirate just offered such a high reward. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly and said with a smile. Pirates of 140 million berry are not very common in the Great Channel. Although there are many, these pirates have made many feats. And this so-called merc has never heard his name before. Come to think of it, it's just an ordinary little pirate. It was only because what he had done was too serious that this caused the naval headquarters to seriously increase the bounty for him. We only gather once every other week. Li Ang's eyes flickered, and he said, besides that, they won't appear in that village. Therefore, we have to distinguish the specific time of their gathering. Otherwise, if they are dispatched rashly, they may startle the snakes. Chapter 596_plan. Then what do we do now? Tina's pink lips parted slightly and asked in a low voice. Go back to the hotel first, and then make plans. Now we know that they will appear there, but we can't judge the time period when they appear there. If they are dispatched rashly, once they are disturbed by the wind and grass, they will naturally change the gathering place. The whole island is very large. If we search a little bit, then we have to find the monkey, year, horse, month. This method is not advisable. The easiest and most time-saving method is to wait until they appear and we can do it all at once. Li Ang thought for a while and said slowly. But then they won't run away. You know, what happened tonight will shock the whole island. Tautu's pretty face moved, her beautiful eyes looked at Li Ang and asked. Indeed. Li Ang nodded with a smile, but, it's only because of the death of the impostor. Besides, my presence can also offset their vigilance. How could they know that I am here to arrest them? Did they still think that they have such a big face that I am dispatched? At best, they'll be cautious during this time. But, for sure, they won't think I'm here to arrest them. Quote. After a few words, the girls nodded quickly in agreement. Hancock's beautiful eyes flashed and he said, so, we can do whatever we want. They don't know that the legendary Li Ang appeared here for them. That's right, so, no matter how big the movement is tonight, it will only make them more cautious, and it won't be a situation of shocking the snake at all. Robin also agreed, nodding lightly. Who would have thought that Li Ang appeared here just for this group of unknown pirates? The group of pirates would definitely not think beyond their ability that they would attract Li Ang. And the main thing is that Li Ang is not a member of the Navy. They couldn't think of any reason why Li Ang would do something to them. They couldn't even think of it. Li Ang came here just because he did it. In addition, Tina will only appear on this island when she has a mission. After today, presumably, your name will be passed down on the whole island. Hancock glanced at Li Ang and said. Also, the power of those counterfeiters should also collapse. Once the momentum of counterfeiters is gone, it will be difficult for them to maintain the status quo. Also, these residents have been deceived for so long, and they naturally have a lot of resentment in their hearts. Therefore, they are very likely to organize an attack. A large-scale campaign against the forces of counterfeit goods. Li Ang thought about it for a while, smiled lightly, and said, "It's good to be wiped out, let them steal my husband's name casually." A deep smile appeared on Hancock's pretty face, and all his anger dissipated. It was so comforting to see the imposter die. Can anyone pretend to be their husband's name? This is definitely not possible. Seeing the person who pretended to be their husband's name died tragically in front of them, their mood was naturally self-evident. "How do you feel? You are happier than me," Li Ang said with a smile, looking at the delicate faces of the four daughters. "Come on, we have to go back and plan what to do next." Tina blushed slightly and said quickly, "Good good." Li Ang nodded with a smile. Soon. Chapter 596_plan. NLT, 39 and GT. Soon. A group of 5 people gradually returned to the hotel and arrived at the room smoothly. After closing the door, the 4 girls threw their bare feet onto the cushion. They showed their delicate and flawless little snow-white feet and flawless soles, which were presented in Li Ang's line of sight. "It's so comfortable." Hancock stretched her waist, revealing her devilish figure, as if she was about to burst her clothes, which made Li Ang almost unable to bear it. Her little feet moved, and she looked really cute. Li Ang stood beside him, and when he saw the white flower's skin, he couldn't help but peck directly. "What are you doing?" Hancock exclaimed, feeling the numbness under his feet. He couldn't help but glanced at Li Ang, his pretty face flushed slightly. Ahem, a natural reaction. Li Ang coughed dryly, touched his nose, and said. He didn't even know what was going on just now, but he actually took a bite out of the little feet that were as white as jade. Flowers 00. Could it be that he is a legendary foot control? But having said that, Hancock's little feet are quite fragrant. Do you use shower gel every day? You pervert. Hancock blushed, rolled his eyes at Li Ang, and said. Sisters, we can't let this pervert take advantage of it. Hancock blushed slightly, and said to Robin, Tautu, and Tina beside him. Immediately, the 4 of them unanimously pulled up the quilt. Except for the small head and the delicate face, the whole body was blocked by the quilt. Speak the truth. Li Ang sat aside, approached the direction of the 4 girls, and said, think about it first, later, what we need to do to catch this group of pirates in one go. 0. After hearing Li Ang's words, Tina tilted her head and thought, why don't we send arrows to the village all the time? In this way, we can find out any changes in the village in time. But who should I send? Peach Rabbit Maimu fell into deep thought, and said, if it's just ordinary people, it would be easy for them to find out. In this way, it will be the same, and the gains will outweigh the losses. So, the person sent out must have a certain level of strength. Robin nodded, and his delicate face fell into thought. The ruddy Hancock's pretty face had not yet dissipated. She scratched her snow-white soles, and her beautiful eyes glared at Li Ang, showing her charming charm. This guy, unexpectedly, kissed someone here. Just too changeable. Here, it's so dirty, how can I kiss it? Thought here. Hancock's face became more and more crimson, his head was emitting white smoke, his hands involuntarily covered his delicate face, and he did not dare to face Li Ang. Snort. After that, ignore this guy. Hancock thought so in his heart. Mei Mei looked at Li Ang, his face was even more ruddy, like the red clouds in the sky, the white was rosy, like a delicate statue, flawless and indescribably beautiful. A long time. Okay. Li Ang waved his hand, his face was calm, and he said, Robin, let one of your revolutionary army send someone with a little strength to closely monitor this village, what do you think? Chapter 597 _ Island Vibration. Well, this method still works. It just so happens that there are one or two in the Revolutionary Army who are a little bit stronger. If they make a move, they shouldn't be discovered. Robin nodded with a pretty face, thought for a while, and agreed. Then it's decided. Tomorrow, let them go to the village in the southeast. Just send 2 people, take turns. Even if there is a target, you can send one person to report. And the other person is still in place to continue to monitor. This way, we can ensure that nothing goes wrong. Liang looked at Robin's delicate face and said again. No problem. Robin nodded and said, I'll go to them now, get them all ready, and send 2 characters to monitor the village, taking turns. Let's go together, anyway, it's wilting and tasteless to stay in the room. Liang stood up and smiled lightly. Good. 637. Robin's pretty face flashed a hint of ruddy, and he lowered his head. Let's go too. Tautu and Tina also stood up, twisted their arms, and laughed. They are not ordinary people, and naturally they will not be tired so easily. Hancock, how about you? Liang looked at Hancock's blushing delicate face and asked. Ah, me. Hancock came back to his senses, and after seeing Liang's eyes focused on himself, his face became more and more rosy, and he said hastily, I must be with you too. Well, let's take a break for half an hour. Then, find the personnel of the Revolutionary Army and ask them to send people to monitor. Finally, we just need to wait for the good news. Liang nodded and lay down on the cushion. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face, his hands hugged Hancock's soft body at once, and he laughed, I still want to run. Let go of me. Hancock's face was blushing, especially after being hugged by Liang, he was even more shy. Only half an hour is not enough. Therefore, Liang had no other action, but just took advantage of this rest time to take advantage of it. If there are other actions, then the next thing, it will not be able to execute the thing after half an hour. At the same time. East of the island. Here, there is a huge music hall. Naturally, the entire lobby serves as Johnny's base. The people inside are all members of the forces that Johnny cultivated. At this time, they were chatting leisurely. You say, how long will it take for Mr. Liang to come back? I don't know, I'm afraid, this night will be very lively. I am so envious. It would be great if we could also be there to watch. Don't think about it. We're still here and continue to do our duty. Quote. A group of people were chatting helplessly, looking very bored. At this time, the ground shook slightly. What's the matter? They frowned slightly, felt very puzzled, and couldn't help asking. I don't know, why is the ground shaking? A young man shook his head, feeling very puzzled. Footsteps. Suddenly, a person raised his brows and said involuntarily. Footsteps. How many people did it take to bring such huge footsteps? Could it be that Lord Liang is back? It must be. Chapter 597_Island Vibration. Footsteps. How many people did it take to bring such huge footsteps? Could it be that Lord Liang is back? It must be. That's right, apart from the return of Lord Liang, what else can cause such a big battle? Let's go out to meet Lord Liang. But, today, it's a bit fast. Lord Liang hasn't gone out yet, why did he come back again? Some people were puzzled, but it didn't prevent them from going out to meet them. After going out the door, they saw it. A large area of residents, armed with various weapons, came menacingly. Anyway, these people are not very friendly. What's the situation? One person was puzzled, looked at the crowd in front, and asked suspiciously. It always feels like they are coming in a menacing manner. The rest of the people swallowed their saliva, felt the vibration of the ground, and had an ominous premonition in their hearts. At this moment, a cry came from the crowd in front. Kill these damned guys, kill them all for me. Dare to deceive our feelings, this so-called lobby should not exist on our island. Do you think that we are really easy to bully? We want to take revenge for those who died. None of these guys can stay. All of them will take revenge for the tens of thousands of brothers who died. Vengeance. Revenge. Revenge. Quote. Was a burst of shouts from the crowd, resounding through the sky. Even other people on the street were attracted. What's the matter? What do these people want to do to Lord Liang's lobby? On the street, a young woman could not help but ask. Everyone said they were very puzzled. Counterfeit goods were the target they worshipped. How could they be so good at it? How could this group of people want to do something to the counterfeit goods they worshipped? In the past, they couldn't believe it. However, it happened abruptly in front of their eyes, and they couldn't bear to believe it. What's the matter? What's the matter with you? A strong man rushed out and shouted to the crowd. They really admire that so-called counterfeit. Go away. The crowd was so angry that they were speechless and shouted loudly. Go away. Anyone who stands in our way will die here. I don't care who you are, this impostor has deceived our feelings. He is not the real Liang, he has only been posing as Liang. So, today, we must destroy all the forces related to him. We will not forgive any forces related to him. That's right, today, if I don't destroy his power, I swear I won't be a human being. The blood of a group of people is boiling, and their eyes are bloodshot. This remark immediately shocked everyone in the audience. On the side of the street, the eyes of a group of residents were wide and stunned. 3.7. Lord Liang, whom they worship. Is it a fake? This is so possible. But looking at this group of tens of thousands of people, they all look menacing, and it doesn't look like a fake. Lord Liang, they worship really fake. No, Master Liang, how could it be impersonation? Yes, Mr. Liang is someone we all respect. He can't be fake, right? Wait a second, don't be impulsive. Quote. The crowd on the street was also chaotic. Everyone's expression was full of disbelief, and they were still full of surprise and asked. But seeing the tens of thousands of people in front of them, everyone's expressions were very hideous and angry, and the trust in their hearts gradually showed signs of collapse. NLT, 42 and GT. Chapter 598_Big Movement. Really, Master Liang, is it really a fake? Then, haven't we been deceived by him all the time? We still don't know it at all. My God, what kind of character do we trust? Wait, this must be false, this must not be true. Quote. The crowd was chaotic, and everyone wanted to hear the truth. Together with the group of guards standing in front of the lobby door, they were all shocked. Their lips were trembling without seeing the tens of thousands of men coming, their legs were weak. If this group of people really want to forcibly destroy this place, they can't stop it. Everyone, you have heard clearly. A strong man cut out from the crowd and shouted, before today, I was the same as you, and I didn't believe the Lord Liang we admired, he is a fake. However, what we experienced today really made us had to confirm this. Lord Liang, whom we trusted and admired before, is really a fake. He used someone else's name to make us worship him in order to achieve his own purpose. All of this is planned, it's all a scam. Otherwise, Chapter 23, have you seen that so-called fake? Has he touched the piano? Has he really attracted the Sea Kings? He can really suppress the Navy headquarters. Quote. After a few words, everyone was silent. Everyone's throat was dry, listening to the strong man's explanation. All the new people from the heart collapsed. And this counterfeit made us work hard for him. In the end, he lost tens of thousands of people, but this is tens of thousands of people. This guy, it's not a pity to die. The strong man said this, and his expression flashed a deep pain. Desperate for a fake. Can the dead really rest in peace? I'm afraid, if they could really climb out of hell, they would have already climbed out. They died so wrongly. It's really not worth it to sacrifice your life for an impostor. Thinking of this, the strong man couldn't help but feel fortunate. Fortunately, he did not die in that battle. You can die, but it also depends on how you die. To die for a mere counterfeit, this is something he absolutely cannot accept. So, you guys, are you going to stop us? The strong man looked at everyone in the street, and Lang Lang shouted. Kill the damn imposter. He actually deceived so many of us. He didn't deserve to die. All the forces he established will be destroyed. I can't bear it anymore. We lost tens of thousands of people just for this guy. Why didn't this guy die? Quote. The crowd in the street was also angry. When they learned the truth of the matter, the anger in their hearts welled up and burned. Things are said from the mouths of the masses, and naturally have a certain weight. Moreover, the number of these people can be in the tens of thousands. So many people have identified one thing: it is absolutely impossible to be false. Immediately, they looked at the lobby in front of them with angry eyes, and their faces were full of murderous intent. Brothers, kill, leave no one alive. Anyone who is not from our island and still joins the forces of this counterfeit will have to die. They are all accomplices. We lost tens of thousands of brothers, and it was because of them that we appeared. The strong man's eyes were blood red, holding a machete, and attacking fiercely. Kill. The crowd immediately became a sensation. Chapter 598-Big News. NLT, 43 and GT. The crowd immediately became a sensation. Everyone, armed with weapons, plunged into the synagogue. A group of guards guarding the lobby were completely dumbfounded. Puff. A knife slid past, and a guard's head was cut off. Blood splashed, dyeing the entire white lobby red. The bloody smell diffused and spread out, very pungent. This originally solemn lobby, however, ushered in a massacre, and the clean and tidy white walls were also stained with bright red blood. The whole scene looked extremely ferocious and terrifying. There were too many people, and the guard who was originally guarding the lobby was no match for the residents at all. Their resistance is useless. Devil fruit ability. Suddenly, an exclaimed voice appeared. It's just a devil fruit person, let me come. A man in black clothes took the initiative to attack. He directly killed a devil fruit person, and retreated completely, disappearing into the crowd. Kill. All those with devil fruit abilities were killed, and the morale of the crowd was greatly increased. They are armed with all kinds of weapons, and they attack and kill all the enemies in front of them without thinking. No one can escape their attack. And the person who killed the capable person was naturally a member of the Revolutionary Army. Seeing this chaotic scene, the people of the Revolutionary Army also subconsciously invaded the crowd, accompanied them, and destroyed all the forces on the island about counterfeit goods. No, no. A guard's eyes widened, staring at the many residents in front of him, and said in horror, I'm innocent, I don't know. Puff. With a knife, his head was directly cut off. Without any room for explanation, he was beheaded on the spot. Among them, some people do not know, and some people are aware of. No one can escape the madness and fury of the residents 903. They have lost tens of thousands of brothers, and under the anger, how can they tell whether the other party knows or not? Anyway, as long as they are not from the island, they will be directly killed by them. They have already subconsciously believed that they are not the people on the island, but anyone who joins the forces of counterfeit goods is a dangerous accomplice and the target of their hatred. And some people who were deceived on the island directly turned against each other, armed with weapons, accompanied the crowd, and launched an attack on the forces of counterfeit goods. A war gradually evolved on the island. When people are angry to a certain extent, they will naturally explode. It's like they are just ordinary residents. Because of the anger in their hearts, they are scrambling for each other, completely unafraid of the enemy ahead. They only know that the power of counterfeiters must be eradicated. Imposter forces must not be allowed to exist on this island. Kill. The crowd was full of anger and shouted loudly. Puff, puff, puff. One by one the guards fell to the ground and died on the spot. Except for the people on the island, everyone outside the island ushered in a massacre. Among them, there are not many people with devil fruit ability. These people are all forces built by counterfeit goods, attracting helpers. But under the dispatch of the Revolutionary Army, these people were also beheaded on the spot. All the people have been unable to stop the angry crowd. NLT, 44 and GT. Chapter 599 in action. Finally, after an hour-long fight, the matter also came to an end. The angry crowd walked out of the auditorium and looked at the so-called concert hall. Everyone's body was stained with layers of bright red blood. Now, they see the music lobby that they used to respect, as if it were a satire. Every now and then, they were reminded that they had been deceived by an impostor. People on the whole island were deceived by this fake. Destroy it. A strong man took a deep breath and shouted. This is the pain in their hearts forever. So, if it can be destroyed, it can be destroyed directly. To avoid seeing it later, it will remind you of the sad things today. Do it. Destroy it. A group of people were dispatched one after another, from the lobby. They found a lot of cannonballs and used them to bomb the music hall. Boom. The voice was loud, resounding through the sky. The entire concert hall was directly reduced to ruins under the shelling. The synagogue they built with their own hands was finally destroyed by their own hands. This is a great irony. The huge synagogue suddenly turned into pieces of broken stone. The original solemn and dignified lobby no longer exists. Besides this place, there are 4 other places. We are going to destroy it. Anything related to counterfeit goods cannot be left behind. This is the biggest stain in our life. Yes, brothers, all go to the next synagogue. Let us make up for our mistakes. The deaths of tens of thousands of brothers will be paid for with the blood of these guys. Yes, brothers, today, we must destroy the mistakes we have made. Quote. A group of people, swearing by their vows, rushed to the second concert hall. Because of the appearance of counterfeit goods, the whole island is filled with the atmosphere of music. At the same time, many concert halls were created. These things, they, are going to be destroyed. This is a record of the stupid mistakes they have made. Therefore, destroying it is their way of forgetting. The death of the dead, the injury of the wound, the way they can take revenge is to let all the efforts of this fake go to waste. An hour later, another concert hall was directly destroyed and reduced to ruins. While storming this synagogue, they discovered something terrible. Here, they actually found a group of children. Moreover, he was still a child locked in a cage in the basement of the synagogue. What the hell is going on? A young man's lips trembled, his expression full of shock, said. Everyone was shocked when they saw the children in the cage. Why are they here? Another person saw the child in the cage and trembled. Everyone fell into silence. They feel that they have discovered the real intentions of the counterfeit. It turns out that using them is only part of it. The real purpose is to capture a group of children and imprison them in cages in the basement of the synagogue. Why imprison these children? Purpose is self-evident. He's still a human trafficker. This damned imposter, he actually did such a thing, it's unforgivable. Chapter 599 in action. NLT, 45 and GT. He's still a human trafficker. This damned imposter, he actually did such a thing, it's unforgivable. A group of children are imprisoned here, how could he do such a cruel thing? My God, what kind of devil did we worship in the past? He is simply a devil in human skin, and all of this is caused by us. If, without our trust, he would not have such great power and courage. Quote. The crowd suddenly realized that their own mistakes were much more than that. This group of children, imprisoned here, is it not because they once believed too much in that fake, which caused such a scene? If they could tell each other's identity, it wouldn't bring these terrible things. What else does he have to hide from us? A strong man with a dry throat and trembling lips whispered. Don't worry, save the child first. Let's take a look again, which child is missing, and let them claim it. That's right, get the children out first. Although these children may be from outside the island, we can't just watch them being abused. This is a mistake we made and we have to make up for it. Quote. Everyone was dispatched one after another, and after breaking the cage, the children inside were released. But these children are different from ordinary children. This group of children will be frightened when they see strangers approaching. An emotion of fear, in the eyes of each of them, magnified infinitely. No, don't come here. The child squatted on the ground in horror, shivering. After seeing this scene, the crowd sighed silently. These kids have been abused. Otherwise, there would never be such a fearful expression on his face. What kind of demon did they worship? It's terrifying that this happened. In retrospect, they resented their former selves very much. If they were not too ignorant in the past, they would not have caused the current situation. Diaresis, it's all our fault. If we hadn't put too much faith in this fake, this scene wouldn't have happened. It's our fault that we killed these little kids. This imposter is not a human, and even beats children. My God, the marks on his body are too cruel. If he is still alive, I must let him understand that life is better than death. He died just like that, too cheap for him. Quote. The crowd was even more angry. Seeing the scars on the child's body makes them very uncomfortable. This sin is too serious. Wang Zhao's, but does it really have nothing to do with them? If they really want to say it, anyone on the island is an accomplice. It's all the accomplices who made these children look like this. Don't be afraid, we are here to save you. That big bad guy is no longer here, so you don't need to be afraid, you know. A middle-aged woman held back her tears, looked at a group of children with an amiable expression, and said softly. In their sight. A group of children still shivered and looked at the crowd, not daring to approach. God damn it, how ruthless it is to be able to shoot even a child. A group of men gritted their teeth in anger. Come on here, we won't hurt you. Tears welled in the middle-aged woman's eyes, and she didn't dare to look at the pictures of these children in front of her. What kind of cruel abuse is it to make a group of children tremble with fear when they see a stranger? Chapter 600-Liberation. This beast. A man gritted his teeth and said angrily. Seeing the appearance of a group of children, the anger in his heart could not help bursting out. It's because they have no eye for eyeballs, and they let such a fake take root on their island. Moreover, the most terrifying thing is that under their worship, the fakes have established a force, and secretly, they have done these abominable things. How many people have suffered because of their blind trust in counterfeit goods? For example, the group of children in front of them, it is not precisely because of their unreserved trust in counterfeit goods that they have made the other party do so many abhorrent things, and they still haven't noticed it. If they really want to be held accountable, they are all accomplices. Residents of the entire island are helping the tyrants. Honey, we won't hurt you. The middle-aged woman tried her best to show a gentle smile and said softly. Unfortunately, her words had absolutely no effect. A group of children squatted on the ground shivering, revealing only a pair of eyes. These eyes were full of fear. Other than that, there was nothing else. Damn. The middle-aged woman was also angry in her heart, gritted her silver teeth, and seeing how these children were injured, she was very heartbroken. How much torture has to be endured to see strangers so terrified? 963 will show such eyes only after being subjected to extraordinary torture. Take them out. A strong man took a deep breath and said slowly. Immediately, everyone walked in the direction of the child. Feeling the sound of their footsteps, the child trembled even more with fear, and the whole body trembled unbearably, and a sense of fear emerged spontaneously. The strong men helplessly picked up the child. Surprisingly, the child did not cry, but but was trembling in silent fear. Such a scene is more infiltrating than what they cry. Can't even cry. It is conceivable that they usually don't cry no matter how much they are wronged. They have all gone through inhuman torture, and they can't even cry. That goddamn imposter, and these goddamn villains. How can they do this? This is just a group of children. It's all our fault. If we had found out in time, they wouldn't have suffered. I hate that we've been ripped off by an imposter. Quote. The crowd burst into grief and indignation, and sighed helplessly. After cleaning the children in the cage, everyone walked out of the CDFF ruins and appeared in the street. When seeing so many children, the pedestrians on the street also understood. Their faces were angry, their eyes bloodshot. Killed on this day, he actually didn't even spare the child. Damn it, if he hadn't died, I would never have let him go. I'm going to tear him into tens of thousands of pieces, and I won't be able to vent the anger in my heart. This fake, he's a human trafficker, a hateful human trafficker. And we don't even know what he's doing. How stupid are we not to discover these problems? Quote. A group of children were rescued. But they all gathered together, crouched on the ground, shivering. As the statistics over, a strong man took a deep breath, calmed his inner anger, and asked. Yes. A man nodded and introduced, there are 238 people in total. The men and women are balanced and the ratio is not out of balance. 238. Chapter 600_Liberation. NLT, 47 and GT. 238. The strong man gritted his teeth, and the anger on his face could not be contained. More than 200 children were imprisoned in cages in this basement. How much pain did they endure? No one knows this, but everyone knows they must have been through a lot of torture. Looking at the scars on their bodies, they still cannot be erased. It can be inferred here that on weekdays, they should be whipped often. Even children are not spared to torture. How can these guys make such a determination? Damn. A group of people gritted their teeth, looking at the child's shivering appearance. The grief and anger in their hearts became more and more obvious. Next, let's see if other concert halls have similar architectural measures. Yes, I can't tell you, there are a lot of children. The thought of how many more concert halls there are, makes my mood drop to the bottom. How many children have to be arrested in total? Damn people. Quote. There was a lot of talk, and everyone looked unconcealed anger. Immediately, they went into action, attacking the next concert hall. Took about an hour. Another concert hall was captured. This time, they used less time because, once they thought that there was a group of kids waiting for their rescue, they couldn't help but kill harder. These scumbags don't deserve to die. Let's go and see if there's a basement. The few over there, act with me, do you hear clearly? The group spread out, searching the entire concert hall, checking the entrance to the basement. It stands to reason that there must be a basement for that imposter to carry out his evil deeds. Where did the basement come from? When they built the music hall, they never knew there was a basement or a cage. Come to think of it, this must have been built by counterfeiters when they were unprepared. Thinking of this, they felt a burst of grief and anger, and couldn't help shaking their heads and sighing. All of this is hard to hide their sins. If it wasn't for them, the counterfeiters wouldn't have done so many damn things so smoothly. Found it. The entrance to the basement is here. Quick, go in and check it out. After the crowd found the entrance to the basement, they shouted excitedly. A group of people dispatched teams to enter the basement smoothly. Certainly, be careful, not sure, there are a group of children waiting for our rescue below. Don't hurt them. Did you hear everything clearly? A person's actions are also very cautious and serious, and he is full of energy. The thought of a group of children in the basement made their hearts unable to remain calm. Everyone's mood was very anxious, and all of a sudden, they plunged into the passage of the basement. It took about a few minutes to walk. Passing through the winding passage in the basement, the walls of the passage are very thick, and there is basically no possibility of collapse. It can be seen that the workmanship is still quite high quality. Afterwards, a group of teens successfully arrived in the basement. However, when they saw the scene in the basement, they were startled again, their eyes widened and their lips trembling, unable to speak.